right, look at this. You got two salutes going on. You get a double salute. Welcome to the show. This is the weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris. We are here to talk about comics. That is what this show is. And I am juicing myself up on some caffeine so that I deliver that to you in the most entertaining way possible. I sang that a couple weeks ago, and it's stuck in my head ever since. Hope everybody is doing well. It's a tough time of year. It's stressful, isn't it? As we approach the holidays, it's like there's lots of happiness with lights and people being friendly, interesting foods and treats and all sorts of stuff like that. But there is some pressure that we put on ourselves. We see other people traveling or visiting family and friends, and we're like, should I be doing more of this? Should I be posting this or that? Should I have gotten some present by now? We put a lot of pressure on ourselves right now, and it's dark. The sun goes down like as soon as we finish lunch, and that affects us. So it's a stressful time. But I am here to give you a fun show. We have tons of topics for the news tonight. We have really interesting comics to chat about. I'm very excited. And what else should I say? I know what else. Bear with me. Let me acknowledge this. I always will acknowledge a super chat. Hello, troopers. Chris, time for some sugar-free Mountain Dew Baja Blast. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate that very much. Tell you what, normally I would spend that on myself, but tomorrow is my wife's birthday. Maybe I'll set that aside, and maybe we can order some dinner tomorrow or something like that. Well, I'll think about that. I'm working tomorrow, but by the time I get home, maybe we'll do something special. You let yourself get rid of social media? I admire that. It's I do sort of think that it's a net negative. I use it, so it's like a guilty type pleasure. Yeah, happy birthday to Chrissy. Exactly right. Tell you what, before I get going with the news, I want to talk about something I did last night. I saved a life. Someone saved my life tonight. Sugar Bear. There was a tiny voice at the back of my work. Meow, meow. I work at an auto dealership. A couple of us, looked for it. We spent like 30 minutes trying to get it, and this little voice would climb up into the cars above the wheel wells and stuff. Meow, meow. Chasing it. Couldn't get it. I had to give up at a certain point. We're supposed to be working. When I punch out, I go, no, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna be patient. And I was patient, and I lured it, and I got it home, and I'm taking care of it for now. But one of my coworkers is going to adopt this little munchkin, and I don't know if you've been following any news reports. If you don't live in the Pacific Northwest, we have gotten torrential rains, lots of flooding. My house, I live kind of up high, so I'm not worried about my property, but it has doubled my commute time because all these roads are blocked. And this little voice was crying out in the night. It's cold, it's rainy. It lifted my spirits to be able to just be patient and patient. And I just waited and waited and played, cat sounds from my phone. And eventually it came close enough, and I grabbed it and took it home. Took care of it. So yes. Oh, a sugar-free Mountain Dew for my wife as the birthday girl. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, my sister thinks I'm crazy for not keeping it because I do want another kitten. But it's just, it wouldn't easily fit into Chrissy and my life right now. It would be an extra thing. So I've got a coworker who is fantastic with her cats. Very patient. She's taught them tricks. She's going to adopt it, and it's wonderful. Hey, it's the birthday girl showing up. Yeah, I don't know if it's a he or a she because I don't want to stress it out. I haven't been trying to pick it up and hold it and stuff. I've been letting it sort of come to me on its own terms. So I haven't lifted its tail to look. I don't know. So anyway, no, I've given this kitty its own room downstairs and it's using the litter box already. It's eating its food. It's drinking water. It looks pretty healthy. And I don't know. I know we're not talking about comics yet, and we're like 5 minutes into the show, almost 6, but I still thought I would share that because I think it is pretty good news. But all that said, why don't we go ahead and get this show on the road, right? Let's get it on the road. Let's talk about the news of the week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
Hey, there I am being amazed that, I can create AI slop now. Wow, thanks, Disney. We'll talk about that later. Boy, well, that'll be a topic that I'm sure a lot of us have opinions on, but I'll build to it, okay? Hey, look, it's Dave from Direct Edition and West Coast Avengers. I think he's still in Japan for another day or two. I'm not 100% sure on his schedule, but he's been uploading some great videos to his channels. Let's see, fish tacos for everyone. Well, I think that this cat would definitely eat a fish taco. It's a kitten, but I think it would definitely eat a taco. One more day. Don't be sad. You've been there a month. That's pretty damn good. I need to get back. We'll see what happens this year. All right, let's get into the news, folks. I'm going to start with Battle Beast. Maybe I'm biased by doing that. These are sort of my friends. I don't know. There's a little news ticker so that you can keep track of what topics we've got and when we'll get to like OpenAI and stuff like that. But Skybound announced that Battle Beast by Kirkman and Otley is coming back. Of course it is. But specifically, issue 7 is coming back March 18th. And one thing that Robert has said about this is that this arc is going to include the Viltrumites, the super strong villains of Invincible. That would be a challenge for Battle Beast, as powerful as he is. And he's still got to wrap things up with the 2 cosmic villains he's already dealing with in the first 6 issues. But issue 6 did end with a mention of Conquest, because this is set in Invincible's past. So that could be cool. Yeah, I mentioned that here. And we've still got to figure out how, at some point in Invincible, Battle Beast was in a Viltrumite prison. We got to figure out how that's happening. Well, anyway, one funny thing about this that I didn't see in news reports, but I thought I'd share with you is on social media, Ryan Otley was saying this actually represents the first time he has drawn an issue 7. And you're like, wait a minute. That humongous run of Invincible, long runs on Spider-Man and Hulk, and he never did an issue 7? He said no, because he started with Invincible with issue 8. And then there was just like numbering stuff with Spider-Man and a guest artist, I think, on Hulk. So he's actually never drawn, technically, an issue 7. I just think that's a little amusing that, like, he's, 20 some years into his career and he just has never drawn an issue 7 of anything. Oh, this is definitely directly connected to Invincible. I mean, Invincible himself hasn't been in the book yet, but Battle Beast was in Invincible quite a bit. This is set in a period in between story arcs in Invincible, and it's filling in his story, showing some huge character growth. And I won't be surprised if at some point Invincible could somehow show up. I think that is possible. Oh, yeah. Name the kitty I saved Battle Beast. That would be kind of funny. Yeah, Tyler Durden, I did, but since it's not comics related, I'm not going to talk about depressing news tonight. Let's see. What else have I got on this one? Oh, the main cover, of course, is by Ryan Otley. But look at this. Cover B by Todd McFarlane. I know he does some inking and some sketches, but it's pretty rare these days to see him do any actual covers, let alone interiors. But he's doing the cover. And some of that is because in March, they're celebrating Image's anniversary again. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's an interesting take. I think it's a really cool take. It's super energetic. I am totally reminded of why Todd got to be so popular. I think that this is a super fun cover. By the way, the return is also tied, in addition to March, celebrating Image. The Invincible show is returning for season 4 in the spring, and they've also got a video game. They released some trailers this week for Invincible Versus. So it's all some pretty good marketing there. It's some pretty good marketing. You didn't pick up that it was McFarlane, even with his huge signature down here? Hold on, let me sort of show this little guy. It's such an iconic signature. Anyway, we'll see what happens when it comes back, but I've really been enjoying the book. I think it's a blast, and I think it's really exciting that Todd McFarlane did a cover for them. I think it's great. Do some more Image stuff. How about another Todd McFarlane cover for Robert Kirkman? Can you tell that they get along? So this week, Marvel and Skybound announced that they are jointly going to reprint Marvel Team Up issue 14. Now, that was made back in 2005. It's been 20 years. Oh my God, that makes me feel old. 20 years ago, it was an issue, since it was by Kirkman, it had Invincible in it. So the story inside is by Invincible's creators, not just Robert Kirkman. Corey Walker did the art in it. Super great. Oh, I'm a massive fan of Corey's art. It's so clean and precise. He's such a perfectionist. But, when you look at his art, you can see that he was trained as an animator. He's just got such a sense of motion. I love it. Yeah, I wonder how many would be left to do a variant cover at this point. Because you're right, Jim Lee did one, Todd McFarlane has probably done one. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about all that. Yeah, they couldn't collect it before, but I'll just say, and yeah, if you haven't read it, it's Invincible and Spider-Man against Doc Ock. Skybound previously had announced a new deal where they're going to be able to include this issue in the next printing of the Invincible hardcover omnibus, Volume 1. But this new version of just the floppy, the issue, is going to have a bunch of variant covers. It'll have Corey Walker's original cover as cover A. But listen to this killer list of variants. Ryan Otley also has done, more issues of Invincible, first of all, than anyone else, and did a lot of stuff at Marvel, did Spider-Man, so that's cool to see him do a cover of the two. Eric Larson's been doing some Spider-Man stuff with Spider-Man Noir, which he wrote. He did variant covers. Just really, really cool. Todd McFarlane, obviously, I'm showing here, and he had fun. Look at this, Spider-Man saying, "Hi, Todd," and he's acting like Invincible's been crowded out. But we've also got some Marvel classic artists on Spider-Man. Mark Bagley, who I thought had completely retired, but it sure doesn't seem like he has. And Alex Saviuk, who's so underrated. When I was growing up reading Marvel in the 80s and the 90s and stuff, Alex Saviuk was the artist on Web of Spider-Man. He's a good artist. I think he's also done a bunch of the comic strips at one point, if I'm remembering right. So anyway, I think that's a really cool list of artists to do a new variant cover. And it's just absolutely wild to think that this is 20 years old. Just that makes me feel old. I remember it feels like it just came out to me, but no, it was a long time ago. All right, so that's some Image stuff. What else have I got? I'll still continue with some cover stuff, but I'll switch over to Marvel. But you see how I sort of linked? There's almost like a segue there, going from one Spider-Man variant cover to another. All right. So Marvel announced a series of color block variant covers. They're all going to be done by David Nakayama, who basically invented this idea back, 2021 or so. Color background, same as the primary color of the character. It really catches the eye. I like these color block covers. Other artists have done them as well. I'm also a big nerd for David Nakayama. I think he's a sincerely very good artist, and I think he's got some really great design theory for what he does with a cover. Very interesting to talk to him when you do that. Anyway, first wave is going to be centered on red. That's coming out in February. But then they're also going to do white and blue. I'm trying to think now. Like, aside from White Queen, maybe Iceman, what other Marvel superheroes are primarily white? Oh, Moon Knight. Moon Knight is. I should have thought of that one first. So Moon Knight, Emma Frost would make sense. They'll probably do like about 4, like one each week. I don't know. I guess you can sort of do somebody like Punisher that's black and white, right? Mystique does have, like, white. Storm has a white suit. Yeah. I mean, those would work. I'm trying to think of a character who's primarily a white suit, and Moon Knight and Emma Frost are the two that jump to mind. Wendigo. Yeah, you could do that if you on a Hulk issue. That would be a blast. Oh, Dagger. Dagger's a good call. Yeah, as in Cloak and Dagger. North Star's black and white, so you could do him, Aurora, Snowbird. There's not going to be a Snowbird cover, is there? That would be pretty bonkers. Kingpin's an interesting idea. White Tiger, I could see working on, say, like maybe a Daredevil issue or something like that, especially if it's coming out close to when season 2 of Born Again is. Blue, I can think of tons of characters. You got Beast and Nightcrawler and Mystique, just like starting off with mutants. But blue is pretty easy. But white is trickier to think of. Yeah, there is a White Vision. That would be interesting too, because we've got Vision Quest coming out next year, so that wouldn't be completely out of the blue. Or out of the white. My joke is stupid. Kingpin. Vanessa. When I was a young man, my father took me into the city to see a marching band. Sorry, but a Snowbird cover. Snowbird's a fine character. It's kind of weird to me that I know I'm going on tangents tonight. I'm just having fun. Alpha Flight is so close to being like, it's got everything you should need to be a hit. It's got a unified idea for a team. It's got some really heavy hitters. I think that Sasquatch and Shaman and North Star are really powerful characters. It's got mutants. Mutants are always popular. I think it's got fun characters. Like Puck has a great personality. And it's like they need their own really memorable villain to really like launch them to somewhere where people care about them. I don't know. All right. What else have I got to say about this? David had a quote. In 2021, I was looking for an eye-catching cover idea that would really stand out on the convention circuit. That's so smart. And came up with the almost all-red Scarlet Witch cover. To my complete surprise and delight, it really took off, and I've since drawn many other covers with the same technique. But it's been a minute, and when Marvel asked about bringing these back, we decided to go big. I don't blame you. I think it's great. Here are some of the others. Red Hulk, of course. Yeah. Phoenix, beautiful. I really love that he did the flames in such a triangular pattern to mimic her costume. I think that looks awesome. And Deadpool, I'm sideways because I'm a rebel. Good for you. I like that, David. I like that quite a bit. I think that's super fun. That's just also a really good pose. I don't know. I like it. It really catches the eye. Still with a little bit of Marvel news. I want to be more excited about this. I'm as it is, I'm vaguely interested. So Star Wars Shadow of Maul is apparently a 5-issue series by Benjamin Percy, who's done Darth Maul stuff, and artist Matabek Musabekov, who's done some Star Wars stuff. Now, there's an upcoming animated show. That was not on my radar at all. But I have to admit, I love Star Wars. The animated shows are a bit of a blind spot for me. I have not watched more than like a small handful of Clone Wars from season 1. Never seen Rebels. I hear some of it is fantastic, but it's a complete blind spot for me. But anyway, we've got an upcoming animated show, Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, which will reveal Maul's plan to rebuild his criminal syndicate on Janix, a planet untouched by the Empire. I've liked, the bits of Maul lore that I've heard, that he survived his fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi and basically eventually became a crime lord instead of, a Sith. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot, that like he's sort of a fallen Sith, but that he's still out there doing his own thing. I kind of like that a lot, but I don't know a lot about it. Anyway, the comic is going to introduce new setting, new cast. It includes this guy, Captain Brander Lawson, and a partner, a droid nicknamed Two Boots. I hope they have a good reason for that, as they investigate. I invented a new word. Copyright me. As they investigate shadowy dealings on Janix. Oh, I did see Star Wars Visions. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, he had the cameo in Solo, and I've kind of come back around to, at first I was kind of disappointed with Solo. I think I was just sort of primed to be, because I do like a lot of the stuff by Lord and Miller, and when they were taken off of it, I felt like that was very messy. But actually rewatching Solo, I was like, it's a little weird that they introduce all these characters with like name actors like Woody Harrelson and then sort of off them halfway through. But it's still a pretty cool movie. I liked it quite a bit. Maul runs around on his little robot legs. What else? He's a major villain in Clone Wars. Oh, I know that his voice was done on the shows, in the animated shows, by Sam Witwer. I've always liked Sam. I've met him, and he's a really nice guy, and I think he's very talented. Oh, he does have two boots? That does make sense. Never mind. Wait, I have two boots. Does that make me two boots? I'm also two boots. Clone Wars is better after season 1. Well, a lot of people have told me that. And they say that, there are certain sort of lore episodes that you could look up and skip around and kind of get the show. But yeah. Maul from Wildcats, that's right. That big, strong purple guy. I forgot about that. I love Solo, still do. I love to watch it for background. I need to rewatch it at some point. It's been a while since I watched it now. Yep, Sam Witwer was, he had a cameo as a zombie in episode 1 of Walking Dead. He'd worked with Frank Darabont, the director, on The Mist. And Darabont had an idea to do a flashback episode on Walking Dead one day, showing the fall of society through the eyes of kind of like a low-ranking enlisted member of the armed forces, and showing how he got up to the point where he was sort of stuck in that tank and becoming a zombie. I love that idea. It never happened because, of course, of how Darabont left the show. I think we could stick with just Paul Blart, Maul, Cop. But yeah, I like that. Was there anything else? Oh, yeah. I guess I just had a paragraph out of order, but talking about how there's that upcoming animated show. And then this comic comes out March 4th. So yeah, new animated show coming out. I hope it's good. I haven't seen the style or anything like that. Was that it? Yeah. This disappointed me. I wouldn't say that I absolutely loved Fantastic Four First Steps, but I liked it quite a bit. I think it was a rock-solid movie. I bet you anything, if they had just found a way to include a little more action, I think it would have been a bigger hit. I know that that's shallow. I think that that's all it needed, was a little bit more action scenes. But it's a good story. It's a good cast. It's a great visual style. I liked it. I don't know where everybody falls on it. I thought it was quite good. But apparently, the Fantastic Four movie debuted to the absolute lowest viewing numbers of any MCU movie that's come to Disney+. I'll get into specifics. So, there's a site, Netflix, and is this pronounced Sheaf? Kind of like, I don't know. It's a French word, so I don't know. But anyway, the movie accrued 556 million minutes viewed in its first 5 days on the platform after debuting on November 5th. And this translates to 4.9 million complete viewings. That's how they calculate it, is in minutes, because you can't calculate, I guess, every finished bit, but whatever. It adds up. They'll just add it all up the same, okay? And I've rewatched it on Disney Plus. I enjoyed it a second time quite a bit. I know 4.9 million sounds like a lot in 5 days, especially these days with fractured audiences. It's not what I would call bad compared to like a TV show or something, but let me compare it. Yeah, lower than the Marvels. Look, by comparison, top performing MCU movie in the first 5 days was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Now keep in mind, a bunch of the previous movies, there was no Disney Plus originally, right? They just they uploaded like 15 to 20 of them one day when Disney Plus debuted. But so this is like, kind of like a newish release for a bunch of the newer ones. Anyway, that got 14.1 million complete viewings equivalent. 14.1 million versus 4.9. Yeesh. Same time frame, 5 days. Look at these. I'm going in order. So we had 14.1 for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, 10.9 million. Doctor Strange 2, 9.7. Eternals had 9.2. I think that benefited from how interested people were in the MCU at the time. Captain America: Brave New World, 6.4. It's a bit of a drop here. Thunderbolts, 5.5. Marvels, 5.3. Black Widow, 5.1. And I'm surprised about Black Widow because that was one of the ones that came out during the pandemic, remember? It didn't come out in theaters at all. That's pretty bad, actually. I would say that's worse in some ways. But it was still more than what they got for Fantastic Four. That said, they're definitely using Fantastic Four in the Avengers movie. I think that that's pretty much a guaranteed hit, as much as things can be in this weird new world of movie releases. That's likely to be a very big hit. And maybe that'll help people be interested. I thought that it was a cool take on the team. I liked that they did something different and sort of gave us a classic Fantastic Four. I liked it. Let's see. I think the biggest problem, and this is directed specifically at you, Chris, is that everyone is so laser focused on how a movie does. The media dictates that. It definitely influences how people think. There probably is a little too much conversation about, analyzing every little bit of it, but there's still, so that's why I don't talk about a lot of like viewing numbers or box office in the middle or anything like that. But when it's the absolute lowest, I go, okay, that's a data point that's worth discussing. Especially because, but here's the thing. I think that because of how I grew up with very little superhero adaptation, and of that, very little accurate superhero adaptation, it's easier to please me specifically than plenty of other people out there. I admit that, okay? I admit that it is a little easier to please me. But I can still look at like some movies and go, no, that one was not a good movie. Or I'm much more critical, I would say, for movies in general, and a little easier on superhero stuff. That is me. That is my weakness, or blind spot, or whatever you want to call it. But with all that said, some of the things I liked that did not perform well would also include, beyond this, the Marvels. I really thought that was a damn good movie. I wish it had a better villain. That would have probably been enough to like make it a bigger hit, but I thought it was fun and exciting, and I laughed a ton. There's a scene where people are in zero gravity having to capture kittens, and it's set to music from the musical Cats. That was hilarious to me. I think I liked the Marvels more than I liked the first Captain Marvel. I liked it a lot. I think that Kamala Khan is one of my favorite things that Marvel has come up with, and it's cast very well. Yeah, the villain was it's pretty obscure. Dar-Ben, a Kree warrior. Pretty, it worked. She had a fine motivation and plan, but yeah, not the most interesting. No, it didn't do well in theaters, I know. But I liked it a lot, so I was always surprised. I liked that one a lot. But whatever, at the same time, I'm like, kind of to Dave's point, direct edition, if you saw it there, who cares in some ways, right? I'm not a shareholder at Disney. I don't give a shit how they do, really. Not really. I get to see it. I've got Disney Plus. I get to watch it again. So what if it didn't do well? I liked it. I can see it. At the end of the day, that works. It's just that when there are things that I like, I want them to do well so that I get similar things. There is a bit of an anti-Marvel sentiment going on, and I think some of it is earned. I think that the quality of their movies after Infinity War was a little more hit and miss than it had been before. It had always been hit and miss, by the way. If you really look at Marvel from the beginning, I don't think you can look at, like, say, the first Incredible Hulk or the second Thor and go, like, those were top tier. No, they were fun, and there was less of them to compare to. In the comics, there are a few that I think are great. I think the Fantastic Four comic right now is great. I think Infernal Hulk is a blast. But I also don't think that they're doing as much creator forward thinking as DC is doing right now. So I think that Marvel, they're not on a losing streak, but they're not at their high point right now. They're not. And I think that, both the movies and the comics could use a little guidance. And so that's why I'm happy to announce I'm taking over as no. Oh, yeah, of course. The Ultimates line is rock solid. It's really good. So, yeah. X-Men 1 and 2 are very good. X-Men 3 depends on how much you like the cast more than anything else. All right, I'll keep going. Let's talk about the big topic. By the way, I did not generate this. I was not going to generate AI imagery. Although I was really tempted for both the news story and the thumbnail, because I know I could have created something absolutely ridiculous, but I was like, instead, no, I'll look for stuff that's already been created that I can use, because I wasn't going to create something new. So let's talk about this. So first of all, this happens at a higher level than Marvel, but it affects Marvel. But I'm going to get into some details before we all just talk about the opinions. But the big news is that Disney and OpenAI have announced a partnership of sorts. It includes an investment and a licensing deal. Two parts to this partnership. I'll discuss both. This is an astonishing amount of money. I was stunned. But Disney invested $1 billion in OpenAI. Now, that was for a stake in the company. It's not disclosed how much. I guess I hope it's a lot on a business level. It's not what I would want to invest in. I feel like it is antithetical to a lot of Disney's core values as I perceive them. I get that they're a business, and so they're not always going to make decisions that line up with what I want, but I'm not a fan of AI, and I was like stunned at just the sheer magnitude of this investment. Huge, huge investment. Here's the part that's more relevant to the comics. They're going to allow OpenAI to license their characters, Disney characters, so that users can make videos and images with their characters. They will legally have the right to do that. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of guardrails so that you can't do anything completely inappropriate with the character. There's probably going to be certain words or terms that they do program to go with their characters. I would hope. Maybe they're complete idiots and they didn't think about this. Winston cracked me up. I'm torn because this will help destroy the planet and creatives will suffer. But now I can also hear Elsa say that she loves me. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. but yeah, so they're going to be able to do this stuff with Marvel Comics. The deal does. I want to like just put this out there because it'd be stupid if they didn't have this, but the deal specifically does not allow OpenAI in the licensing deal to use actors' faces. They can, or voices. They can only use either masked characters or the animated and drawn versions of the characters. So on one level, I get this. But on another level, I'm going to talk about it. It shows how much more respected Hollywood is than comics, right? Let me just, yeah, exactly. I've got a bad feeling about this. I hate it straight up. I hate it too. I hate that there's constantly things on my social media that look real for a minute, and then I realize I've been tricked by something. I've got to be more discerning. But it's like, I'm not looking for it. But by even clicking one, now they're going to show me like 3 more. So I got to be even more careful. So here's the thing. They're like, oh, we don't want to deal with, unions like and representatives, agents and managers for big actors complaining about how they made, Brie Larson or Mark Ruffalo look or sound. And good. That's good. That is good that they've got those guardrails in place. But I have seen nothing said about, what about the artwork? What about the artwork? I mean, this is done by people. The movies, the animated movies, and the comic books that they're going to be basing it on, they're not saying anything about like what those rights are. So like what style? What style are you supposed to be doing, say, Elsa in? Well, of course it's going to look like the movie. And if you do a comic, it's going to look like how some of the artists do it. So I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And I don't think that, like, some people say that AI imagery is inevitable. I think it could be used as a tool to refine special effects, but I don't think it's inevitable. I don't, because it is not really profitable, to be honest. It uses way too much energy to do some of these silly little videos and images compared to what somebody would be willing to pay for what it actually costs to process that. There is a resource factor involved. And they're trying to get us all hooked on it and like it so that they can then start charging us for it. But none of us are going to pay what it is actually costing. So I do feel like it's a losing strategy. Hey, Jeannie, I've got the little scroll bar there to see what you missed for topics, but I did start off showing some pictures of the little kitten that I was able to save. Well, that's the thing is, like, I see actors doing ads for certain AI stuff. There's a bunch of office actors doing something for like an AI that you can make look like yourself. Craig Robinson, is it? Was on The Office? I think it's Craig Robinson. Is like, hey, this is AI Craig, and the other office actors are like, oh, cool. But I'm like, the goal here is to replace the cost of employees and actors and stuff. Do you not see that is the goal, the end goal? Here's the part that sounds basically contradictory to me, and I don't understand why Disney agreed to work with OpenAI in this way. Disney, keep in mind, is still suing Midjourney, which I think they should, for making AI images based off their characters. They're suing that, saying like, hey, we need to protect our intellectual property. But why are you not doing a licensing deal with them as well, right? Like, I don't get that. What's the logic there? They also, on the same day that Disney and OpenAI announced this partnership, Disney delivered a cease and desist letter to Google so that I forget what the name of their thing is. Is it Gemini or is that Microsoft? I forget. Nano Banana? I can't keep them I can't keep them straight. But whatever Google's is, Disney sent them a cease and desist to not let them use their AI on their characters. So on one hand, they're protecting their intellectual property, and I'm glad that they're fighting some of these AI companies. And then on the other, they cut this sweetheart deal with OpenAI. I don't know. I don't get it. There's always money in the banana stand. Yeah, the Ask Jeeves AI is basically you go to Ask Jeeves and tell its AI to generate a message, and it just sort of pokes a prehistoric bird in the back of its head, and it carves an image out of rock, and it says, "It's a living." Flintstones jokes, very popular at the very tail end of 2025. Everybody loves a good Flintstones joke. Let's see. I worked for TikTok for a bit. This is interesting. They wanted to pay me $200 to scan my head and face for undisclosed reasons. It could only be for AI. Asking your own employees to replace themselves, it seems. I agree. That is crazy. $200 for... And what if I become a humongous streamer 3 years from now? You know? What if that happens? And I just sold my rights for $200? Stupid. Stupid. Internet Explorer still exists? Yeah, definitely. $300, of course. Of course you can have the rights to me. All of a sudden, there's me, you know, like I'm pregnant with Elsa's baby. But I sold my rights for $300. So it sounds like most of the people, and it makes sense. Look, you watch my show because a lot of our opinions align. So we're not really having any sort of a debate here, which is fine. I'm just getting some of my thoughts out. I'm open to hearing what the argument is for why this would be a good idea. I don't see it as a good idea. I see it as Disney potentially alienating the artists that create their biggest properties, and potentially damaging their brand, depending on how carefully they're able to protect what people can do with this. Can I draw, I don't know, Hulk and Iron Man in a gay relationship that's like really explicit? I would argue that's something Disney would not want. I don't know. That's what my literal first bullet point says. Yeah, Gordon Gekko said it best. Greed is good. And Scott, stop messing around with my PIM particles. Not always. I mean, I know what you mean, and you're probably right for a long time, but you damage the brand over time. Look, I think I'd have to look. It's been a long time since I actually looked at the revenue streams in one of like Disney's annual reports. I think that their theme parks are still their biggest moneymaker, and that is sort of what they consider themselves, and that like the movies and the other things that they buy are more of a business decision and to support the parks. I think. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I looked, but I'm pretty sure the parks are still their big... And Disney is nowhere near the size of, say, a Paramount or a Netflix or a Warner Brothers. They're not. They're big. They're huge. They're not as big. But once we start talking about billions, it becomes inconceivable to talk about the scale. It was supposed to be Michael Douglas, but I could probably do a better David Lynch. Not that that's perfect, but we both like coffee. And then bear with me, there was this. My lesson plan today was, is AI a bubble? I think so. But I think a lot of the technology will continue to exist. You can't put technology back once you've created it. But the market will still dictate what's an efficient use of that technology. And there can be government regulations on what we do. You know, like, could we clone a human being right now? Kind of. Does the U.S. government allow for that? No. You know? So there can be regulations in place. We'll see. There's not going to be a theme park for me. I only have $7 billion. Very poor. I'm very poor. When the Terminators come, we're all going to be wishing it was a bubble. I don't know. Moving on. Why is this coming out in weird orders? Jesus. All right, I'll just do it like this. Well, okay. DC has announced when they'll publish their crossover Superman, Spider-Man for the 50th anniversary, March 25th. It is going to be pricey, $1 more than Marvel was charging for their crossovers, $7.99. There's a lot of backup stuff to that. We'll talk about that. Main story they announced is going to be by Mark Waid and Jorge Jimenez. I think that's a rock-solid team. Very good. I definitely think that they're more than capable of delivering this. And I'm excited to see more of Spider-Man by Jorge. I've seen him do a bunch of Superman. I want to see him do Spider-Man. I like that. Anyway, it's also a good premise, right? They're both journalists. So Clark Kent and Peter Parker are going to investigate a conspiracy. Somehow, eventually, it's going to involve Brainiac and Dr. Octopus. Okay. I kind of get that. And personally, I am of the opinion that Spider-Man's true archenemy is Dr. Octopus. A lot of people will argue for Green Goblin. Green Goblin's cool. I think Dr. Octopus is his true opposite. Here's some of the backup stories we get. Tom King and Jim Lee doing a Lois Lane and Mary Jane Watson story. Interesting. Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber, they had that fantastic Jimmy Olsen 12-issue series. Fantastic. The Many Deaths of Jimmy Olsen? Such a good book. Hilarious. They've got Jimmy Olsen teamed up with Carnage. That's bonkers. Sean Murphy himself doing Superboy from the Legion of Superheroes and Spider-Man 2099. So far future versions. Cool. Gail Simone and Belaine Ortega doing Power Girl and Punisher. That's out there. I guess so that'll probably be a short, funny one. I don't know. Christopher Priest and Daniel Sampare. I love Sampare's art. Doing Superboy Prime and Spidey just as he got his black suit. Okay. Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott doing a race between Daily Planet and Daily Bugle. And then this one I never predicted, but Jeff Lemire and Rafa Sandoval are doing a Pa Kent and Uncle Ben story where they met before, they had their kids. Adopted both adopted, actually. Yeah, they're both adoptive parents. Pa Kent and Uncle Ben. I'd be very curious to see how they interact. I like that idea a lot. I hope we get Turtle Man versus Carnage. That would be great. They also are doing a bunch of variant covers, cardstock, so it's $1 more. Jim Lee, Daniel Sampare, Dave Johnson, very cool. David Nakayama, Gabriel Delato, Michael Janin, Raphael Albuquerque, Art Germ. I don't know David Talaski, I have to admit. Art Adams, Chrissy Zulo, that's fun. Josh Middleton, very good. Scott Koblish, I hope Scott does one of his every character jammed into a cover. That would be very fun. Olivier Copiel, Adam Hughes, Mitch Gerards, Jeff Spokes, Doc Shaner, Steve Lieber, J. Scott Campbell, Clayton Crane, Raphael Sandoval, and more. Good Lord. Good Lord. You know what? On a related note to crossovers and all these variant covers, Jim Lee went on to social media to say, hey, I guess some people think that our Batman Deadpool, they thought that it was just more covers of Deadpool Batman. And no, it's completely new stories. So yeah, that was real. We talked about that last week, how the DC version underperformed, even though most people would argue it was the better comic. People thought it was just a reprint with more variant covers. So variant covers are kind of fun in the short term, but I think when you do this many, you really confuse the audience. It's just too much. So a few of us said that, but yeah, it really muddies the market, and I think that it is getting very close to the speculator frenzy of the 90s that really collapsed the industry for a while. Yes, Marvel will have their own version, just like with the Batman Deadpool. First, Marvel got to do theirs, and then the next month, DC got to do theirs. This time, for the Superman Spider-Man, DC gets to do theirs first, and then we'll hear about what Marvel is doing for their. And we'll see if it confuses them again. Oh, yeah. Well, they're not doing it because this is specifically Superman Spider-Man. Okay, that's why it's Superboy of the Legion. Now they said they're doing more crossover stuff, so don't be surprised if you do get a comic later in 2026, either digital or physical, that could have those characters meet up. But it's specifically, these are all characters that are at least versions of Superman or Spider-Man, or are important, like supporting characters, or they debuted in those comics. So they're trying to stick very close to Superman, Spider-Man, and that's why you're not seeing Batman Beyond. But I'm sure that they've considered that idea as a story. Might already be in the works. I think this is a really fun cover. The Dave Johnson cover looks cool. The Jim Lee cover looks a little weird, to be honest. He tried to do Spider-Man's thing of like sort of awkwardly nimble fingers, and it looks to me like Superman just broke Spider-Man's fingers and was just like, go. Oh my God. We'd never get that, but I love that idea. What else we got? Going from Superman to Spider-Girl. Yeah, good, Chris. How about Supergirl? So, oh geez, I didn't fit everything on here. Let me do an edit real quick to something. Where is it? Here. Good job, Chris. I'm gonna shrink this. I'm sure this is what you tune in for. There, it fits. I'll go back. All right. So, a lot of you have probably seen it this week. We got the first trailer for the Supergirl movie. I think it looked fun, but I also think it needed more color, to be honest. That could just be the trailer, like showing certain scenes. But Bilquis Evely and the colorist really gave us some dynamic scenery in the comic. Really bright colors a lot of times. And I wish that the trailer reflected a little more of that, but that's okay. So, what I thought was interesting was this. This is on the top. This image, that's an actual screenshot from the trailer. Look at that. Traditionally, like we don't get a lot of boosts on comic sales when the movies come out. That's not really a thing. But DCU's head guy, James Gunn, he's been posting, to his credit, on social media about a lot of the specific comics that they look at or adapt. And according to Comics Beat, they say it's anecdotal, but they've talked to retailers who said that it has helped them with certain sales. This is a great comic, folks. I thought it was fantastic. An 8-issue comic, now you can get it as a trade. But I like this, that there's a distinct call to action at the end of the trailer. Read where it all began. And it tells you where to get it. And it shows you what it looks like. That's fantastic. Imagine if every comic trailer did that. I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things that he's been doing is how he's promoting the comics. And that's not technically part of his job. He's responsible for the movies. But I think he does understand the goodwill that engenders with the fans. And when you've got the goodwill of the fans, that can lead to good buzz. So it's smart. It's marketing. It's marketing. Shane, you're going to be in the news if you're patient. Nice to see you. Anyway, what else did I have to say? Film comes out in June, specifically based on this comic. Again, I really recommend it. It's a really cool story that makes Supergirl a unique, interesting, dynamic character, puts her on the back foot, and the artwork is incredible. I am such a fan of Bilquis Evely. She's incredible. The story, if you haven't read it, just the broad strokes of it. Supergirl aids a young girl named Ruthie, and it might be pronounced a little different. I don't know. I mean, I've only read the book. But they travel the galaxy. It's an intergalactic movie trying to get revenge on the man who killed Ruthie's father, who's a guy named Krem of the Yellow Hills. Looks different in the movie than the comic. I don't care about that. While he's not in the comics of this, just to set expectations, Lobo does appear in the trailer. Briefly, very briefly. This shot, played by Jason Momoa. But hey, looks screen accurate. Momoa makes a lot of sense for that character. Yeah, that is a very good way of looking at it. It is the story True Grit in a lot of ways. Aquaman looks very different. I think that Jason Momoa as Lobo makes more sense than him as Aquaman. Not that he was bad. That was an interesting enough take on Aquaman. It was. But yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense as Lobo. And he said that he's always been a fan of Lobo years before he was cast. You can see him like in an actor's discussion when he was promoting Aquaman 2. And he said when he first got the call and that DC was interested in him for a character, he goes, Lobo. They're going to ask me to play a Lobo. And he was stunned when they said Aquaman. He was like, wait, what? He didn't get it. He really thought that he was going to be offered Lobo. And he was like, and I love Lobo. I used to read comics all the time. I like that character. I think I would do a good job. And that was years before he ever got cast in this. He does play Lobo a little bit. A little bit. Lobo's a little more hardcore than even his Aquaman. But anyway, the comics do have plenty of bad guys, including some space pirates called brigands. They're basically mercenaries, though. And I bet you anything Lobo is either part of that or takes the place of that. There is room for him, is all I'm saying. There is room for him, and I think that could be a lot of fun. It could work. Won't know until it comes out. Not against the idea at all. Not at all. All right, more Superman stuff. Have you got enough Superman news yet? Got a little more Superman news. So a New York judge suggested this past Thursday that DC Comics and Warner Brothers, they're probably positioned well to retain their international copyrights for Superman. Said it's looking to me like it's probably going to go DC's way. The case is basically a challenge from one of Joe Shuster's heirs, the artist here, the nephew, and here's what his suit is. He argues that the character's copyrights in Canada, the UK, Ireland, and Australia should revert to the family under those countries' laws. It's a good argument. They have different lengths of terms for copyright. It's a good argument. Here's why it might not work. Let me continue. Justice Robert Reed is skeptical. He repeatedly noted that Shuster's sister signed away those rights in a 1992 agreement that granted DC Comics permanent ownership in exchange for lifetime financial support. This has been already debated, the rights. And so it's like, yeah, you've got international law, but you've also got an agreement. And I'm sure DC's lawyers were very careful about how they worded that agreement with his heir at the time. You know, Justice Reed acknowledged that the decision might not be viewed kindly, but he stressed that the contract's language was unambiguous. So, you know, this heir was like, hey, different copyright periods, so maybe we should get the international rights back in some of these countries. But if there's an agreement, that kind of overrides what the international law is. It's like you signed away those rights and did so knowingly, you know? It's a pretty good deal. Exactly. And, you know, that was his sister. She was the heir, you know, he was passed. So it's in her purview to, at that point, decide what happens for the estate. Look, of course I would want, you know, Schuster and of course his family to benefit as much as possible from these creations. I think that the argument by the judge does make sense, though. It's like, yeah, interesting idea, but you kind of got this agreement that overrides it. Parts of Superman will go into the public domain, and when we say soon, it's like still like 10 years. It's about 10 years away. So, to be clear, look, Simon & Schuster signed away the rights to Superman to national periodicals, for very little. I don't know. I want to say something small like $300 total. At the same time, they had no idea how popular it would be. And it became very popular. Probably the most popular. I think you could argue that Superman is overall the most popular comic of all time. And they, you know, tried for years to get the rights back or to get a settlement. And finally, Neil Adams really stepped up. At the height of his popularity, he was working for both Marvel and DC, something very few creators could do. You had to work for one or the other, but they both wanted Neil Adams because he would sell books and he was great. And Neil Adams leveraged that popularity, both with the fandom and with the publishers, and said, you guys need to make this right. There's a movie that's coming out. You need to make this right. And DC stepped up and gave them a brand new settlement. And again, you know, like, I don't remember exactly how much it was. It wasn't nearly what they make off of Superman, but it was a new settlement. And then after they passed away, again, DC went to the plate against each of their estates and gave new settlements, including this one. So, you know, they should fight for every penny that they're owed. They should. But I don't know if they're going to win this one. I'm really, yeah, Neil Adams really did a great job there. And it, you know, and it's the right thing to do. I think that like sometimes the fan outcry, like we, the fans, we need somebody that's in charge that has guided this. But if we flip open, you know, a Batman comic or something, it now says created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. They got both of those, Bob Kane and Bill Finger. That was due to fan outcry and saying like this is and you know, also I forget the author's name, but he found an heir of Finger to argue the case, and that's awesome. I think that's great. Love it when you guys can hit like. Anyway, is there anything else I had about this one? The judge pointed to a 2013 Ninth Circuit ruling that upheld the same agreement in the United States that as compared to this international argument, finding that the Schuster estate had no grounds to reclaim domestic rights. They'd signed an agreement. But for what it's worth, the matter remains pending in the New York Supreme Court. This one's funny. This one's just quick funny, okay? Conan writer Jim Zub shared a pretty hilarious email that I'm going to read to you guys. It was sent to him. He posted this to social media. It's definitely generated by AI. The goal here is they're trying to interest you in promoting the book, and then they try to like charge you for that. But so here it goes. Hi, Jim. I'm Adderlan. That's a real name, right? Adderlan. Not Adrian, Adderlan. Organizer of blah, 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 a small but enthusiastic pack of readers who take books very seriously. We're finalizing our December read, and Conan the Barbarian instantly sparked the "ooh, this would be perfect" reaction in our group chat. The dual he said, she said storytelling, the mix of love, heartbreak, messy choices, and the authentic look at relationships from both sides fits exactly the kind of emotionally rich young adult our members love during the holiday downtime. That's Conan. The he said, she said, looking at relationships from both sides fits Conan the Barbarian to a T. Nailed it. Randy, you're such a liar. You have a good friend named Adderland. First of all, I don't know if you even have a friend. I'm just kidding. I'm your friend. Adderland is my middle name. I'm sorry, is your name Bort? No, sorry. My name is also Bort. I think this is so funny. Anyway, it continues from there, saying that we want to spotlight Conan the Barbarian. You know, they're acting like, oh, can we just talk about it in our group? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, well, here's what we can do. We can, like, you know, pay to promote it. So Jim put together this. He just shows Conan absolutely gutting a foe with the quote, the dual he said, she said storytelling, the mix of love, heartbreak, messy choices, blah, blah, blah. I just got a kick out of that. I don't know if that counts as news. To me, it's hilarious. The dual he said, she said storytelling. Oh, I could almost believe Jim Zub writing for Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Need to restock the Adderland nameplates. I have so many keychains for Adderland because we all know 5 or 6 Adderlands. Hi, Adderland. Nice to meet you. All right, moving on. I just wanted to share that ridiculous. It's clearly AI generated. They don't know what this comic is. Don't know if you heard, but CGC announced that they're bumping up all their prices in 2026, including comics, and that's the one that I'll talk about here. For the company's comic grading service, here's what the prices are changing to. I didn't even know that they had all these tiers depending on what kind of a comic you're asking them to grade, but apparently they do. Modern bulk tier changes from $24 to $27, although they're reducing the minimum that counts as bulk from 50. You used to have to get 50 at a time to get the bulk price. Now you can do it with just 25. Okay, I guess. Modern tier goes from $27 to $30. They're introducing a whole new tier, vintage bulk, $42 per book. Max value can only be up to $400. So how would you know until you submit it sometimes? Minimum of 25. Vintage tier is changing from 42 to 45. So everything's going up $3. Except for this one. High value tier will change from $95 to $105. And the minimum for the unlimited value tier, I guess that's, you know, when you inherit like a really incredible collection or something, or you buy something humongous at auction that isn't already graded, I don't know, changes from 115 to 135. I don't know. I've literally never gotten a book graded. I don't know a whole lot about it, so I don't have a lot of opinions to share either. I've got a lot to say about Adderland, the name. I've got a lot less to say about grading comics. But I still thought I'd share it because I'm sure at least some of my viewers grade their comics, and just giving you a heads up that basically a lot of this stuff is going up by $3 next year. Probably both prices going up and, you know, what do you call it? The value of it going down. What else have I got? This is interesting. What is Comic Unity? Shane Chebsey, he was actually just here in the chat, but he's the publisher of Scratch Comics. I've had him on the show before for one of those live, what do you call it, like indie showcases talked about some of the books that he publishes. Got a lot of interesting books. Got a Dracula book by one of the descendants of Bram Stoker. He's got Claudia Christensen, or I think that's her name. I'm not an expert, from is it Babylon 5? She does a sci-fi book. Anyway, he's launched something called Comic Unity. It's up right now. What's Comic Unity? The goal is to have a social media platform specifically for readers and pros, and I guess industry professionals as well, like a shop owner or something like that, to have a place to connect over comics. But there's a little more to it too. I added son. Oh, so Claudia Christian. I wasn't. It didn't sound right when I said it. And Shane is still here and says, happy to answer questions. I'm not sure if I have questions, but let me talk a little bit about what I saw. So it is still being built out. It's brand new. So some of these sections, will build, I suppose, over time. But it's got links for forums, great. A marketplace, interesting. And events listing. I love that. I love the idea because you can look up big conventions, but there's plenty of really fun small press or local conventions that could be added there that would be really fun, especially if you could sort by what's near you. That would be really relevant. Or time, like what's coming up in the next month. There's resources. This is great. They'll have a listing of printers that do comics. I think that that's fantastic, especially because depending on where you live, even if you've used a printer in the past, that might not be necessarily the most affordable choice anymore. Lots of stuff changing with tariffs and different fees between countries. Also, comic shop listings. Of course, you got to have that. I like that, though, especially if there was like a place that was maybe like a hobby shop that also carried comics. They might not necessarily already be on some listings, but they could be here. It's going to probably be vulnerable, I would think, to the same sorts of things that any social media platform can be in terms of, people getting pretty far apart with viewpoints on politics and stuff. I think that that's always the challenge. But if it's focused on the resources, I love the idea. Okay, there will never be algorithms or adverts. So it's really just a resource place and a place to connect. And I love the idea. I think it's a very positive idea. Yep, fans and pros, people in between. It's a good idea. Thought I'd just help get the word out. So there's the website. Pretty easy, comicunity.net. And just signed up. Okay, cool. I haven't had lots of time to explore, say, the message boards yet. And I know that some of the things like the resources and listings aren't fully built out yet, but I do love the idea. And if it can truly become a valuable resource to somebody like me by having events, having printers, having comic shop listings, as well as social media discussion, that would be a place I would be willing to go to. But I think that is the thing that would help make it the most valuable, is adding those resources. But it's got a pretty simple way to navigate and stuff. That's a good question. Is it app-based? I saw something saying something about an app, but I don't know if it said that you could go to it or if it was coming. Like I said, I went to the website and I logged in and signed up there. I assume people from abroad can, because Shane is over in the UK. So yeah, it's not an American site, but I was able to sign up, so I assume anybody can. Oh, good. There is an app. Yeah. I thought that it said something about an app. So that's cool too, because look, a lot of us are more likely to use an app for social media when we're on a bus or laying down on the couch than we are with a website. Yeah, exactly. I think that Blue Sky has been pretty good about being friendly to lots of different comic readers and not too argumentative. But that's always the trick with any social app. Anyway, I wish it luck. Oh my goodness, this was crazy. And I don't know if Dave, if you're still in here, Dave went to the Tokyo Comic Con. They had one big problem, very specific. So Johnny Depp, one of the biggest guests at this last weekend's Tokyo Comic Con that was held in Chiba. But what happens? Depp had a special photo and autograph session for fans that you could buy ahead of time. It ran far off schedule both days. I don't know if that was how the convention coordinated it or if it was just Johnny Depp showing up when he felt like it. But he was like, we're talking really, really late, like 5 hours late for one of the signings to start. 5 hours. That's a lot of time for somebody that's going somewhere for fun. The session cost fans around 75,000 yen, which translates roughly $480. Not cheap to get a signature and a photo. Despite paying such a huge amount, a lot of them did not receive the experience that they wanted. Ooh, yikes. The convention has posted an apology online, and they say that they are refunding fans who were not able to meet him. But that was a lot of them. $480. You'd think that that would be a bit of a priority for everybody, but apparently not. Depp appeared on stage for a panel and was gifted a curtain, this curtain, with original artwork by One Piece author Eiichiro Oda, which is a great fit. It's his character, Captain Jack. Oda obviously does a pirate-themed manga. That was a very nice gesture on the part of both Oda and the convention. Very nice gift, I think. I think that's pretty incredible. Meanwhile, I'm going to share something with you. There's a video has gone kind of viral, at least within fandom circles, where a fan from Seoul just walked up to Johnny Depp on the convention floor, was able to get an autograph and video for free. People were paying $480, waiting in line over 5 hours and not getting what they were promised. And then there's like, this is only a small clip of it, of him just walking up and like asking him to sign this thing, giving him his name and stuff like that. Yeah. What am I doing? Oh, I jumped around. But anyway, yeah, he just walked up to Johnny on the convention floor, paid nothing, and got the same thing. Ouch. Imagine paying $480. Maybe not even getting the experience, and then seeing that people were able to just walk up to him for free and get the same thing. Oops, not good. Johnny really should have said, like, I'm sorry, but, you know, for this convention, it is sort of a paid experience, which seems tough if for this one guy. But what about all the hundreds of people that paid for it, if not thousands? Anyway, only sort of related to comics since it was at the convention, but that does not sound very good. I heard everything else about the convention was awesome. You know, I saw videos where it doesn't look nearly as crowded as something like New York Comic Con. It's much more spread out, lots better food options. They had tons of amazing food trucks, like outside, but still like accessible when you come into the convention center. Like you go out the back of the convention and there's just a huge line of all these food trucks with really amazing Japanese food. That's awesome. I think it has to ultimately fall to the convention organizers to say, like, hey, look, I get that you're a big Hollywood actor, or at least were, but people are paying a lot of money. You got to show up on time, you know? Not good. No, I don't know anything about him making a comic. I'm sure he's super involved. Anyway, what else have I got? Oh, this is cool. So now we're going foreign type stuff mostly. Dark Horse announced Moebius Library, The Depressed Hunter. That's their next English language version. They're collecting all the comics of Jean Giraud, Moebius. One of the best to ever do it. One of the best. Debuts next summer. Written and illustrated by Moebius. Translated by Diana Schutz. Lettered by Adam Pruitt. It's a prequel to the comic The Major. You may have seen that, or at least seen the Airtight Garage on covers of Metal Hurlant, magazine started by Moebius and his friends. But it's a prequel to The Major, and his character, Major Grubert, finds himself attempting to chase away the blues, but getting caught up in a surreal adventure. Taking a vacation to the Airtight Garage to clear his mind, Grubert walks straight into an assassination plot, his own. So, again, I think that's around June. Yeah, okay. Hardcover, 88 pages, one full story, $24.99, June 9th. Exactly. Moebius never phoned it in, or never really had a outright bad idea. It's definitely Moebin time. Definitely. So, just thought I'd share that. Oh, that's interesting. The Hyde comic seems legit. They've got a fully produced live-action trailer. I remember when Kyle Higgins did that with the late actor from Power Rangers. What was his name again? I'm just not a Power Rangers expert. Jason David Frank, I think. And to promote, Kyle Higgins was writing Power Rangers at the time and had created an alternate dimension evil version of Tommy, Lord Draken, and he actually got Jason David Frank to film a promo video to promote the comic. I think that like really helped make the Boom comic explode in popularity. That was so cool that they did that. But that was all Kyle Higgins. He funded it, he organized it, and he did it to promote his book. Very cool. Yeah, very cool. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on all sorts of tangents tonight. It might be the caffeine. What do I know? Got some more Angouleme stuff. So, the French magazine, and again, I've never taken French, so pardon my butchering of whatever this word is. Nouvelle Obs, maybe, printed what seems to be, it probably is, a leaked version of what would have been Angouleme's official selections. That's their awards show every year. They call them the official selections. The Angouleme's. So in other words, the people that would have been up for winning awards. The festival isn't happening. Well, there aren't actual selections this year, but this is what would have been. It is worth noting, though, before I even share the little bit of news that I have here, a lot of the publishers had already decided to boycott the festival, so they did not submit their comic for consideration. So even when we see the list, and I didn't list the French comics, I'm just saying that there probably were a bunch more bande dessinée, French comics, Belgian comics, that did not get considered. The magazine lists 45 comics that were in the official selections list, but it is behind a paywall, so I could only see other sites reporting on it. At the same time, most of them are bande dessinée that none of us would know, or at least I didn't, and I assume most people wouldn't know. Some would, and kudos to you. And I recognize some of the names. But what I decided I'd do was just list some of the translated American comics that would have been nominated. We've got two from Drawn and Quarterly, for instance. We've got Tom Gauld's Physics for Cats and Paul B. Rainey's Why Don't You Love Me? Those are both by Drawn and Quarterly. We've got the Dark Horse? Yeah, Dark Horse book by Tom King and Bilquis Evely, Helen of Windhorn. And a couple from Image Comics, Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples' Saga, Rick Remender and Max Fiamora's Sacrificers. Also, the final volume of the manga Tokyo These Days by Teo Matsumoto. Those were all things that were supposedly nominated. Oh yeah, very avoidable. Very avoidable. Incredibly low bar is right. And you might have had like some lawsuits falling out of that, but you got to start somewhere. If the event returns, and it probably will next year, we've got a year to get this sorted out, but if the event returns without their controversial promoter, which we've talked about for the last several weeks, and I don't need to rehash everything. 90 Art Plus, if they're not involved, the festival might lose its mascot here, Fav the cat, because 90 Art Plus owns the copyright to that. They're the ones that hired the artist to create that. So the promoter may own the mascot as compared to the festival organization itself. I know that seems small, but it would probably be weird if you went to a convention every year. There was a mascot, year after year after year, and then all of a sudden he just disappeared. It would be weird. Okay, I'm sorry that I broke your heart. I broke your heart too, right? It's only lukewarm at best at this point. All right, I think that's everything. Oh, no, there was one more thing. The mayor of Angouleme, Xavier Bonifant, he has announced that it's sort of like small compensation, but the town is putting on sort of its own little comic convention at the end of the month instead of the beginning, and it's going to be just a free 3-day comics event. And I'm sure that is just because plenty of people had already booked their travel, so there would be guests, from out of the country or out of the town that were willing to spend money. And there's all these shops and stores and hotels and restaurants that need that. So they're putting together something, I guess using whatever government funds they've got to put on some sort of an event. It's not Angouleme Festival. It has nothing to do with that organization. It's just taking place in the same town, trying to make up for it. Yeah, that would be sort of the weird part is if you had like the Harvey Awards, right? Named after Harvey Kurtzman. It's based on a those awards are a physical statue of Harvey, well, technically a caricature of himself. It'd be weird if one year all of a sudden, the Harvey Awards was just like a pyramid instead. You were like, huh? What happened? Anyway. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, the artist that made it, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that. I probably should have included it. Louis Trondheim. I'm sure he could be hired to make a new mascot if need be. I'm sure he could. But it looks like the promoter might own that as compared to the show owner. I just thought I'd mention that in closing. Talking about another French comics thing, and I'm sure this animated GIF will annoy you, so I'll keep it moving. But in October, we talked about it on this show. It was announced that Les Humanoids, the French publisher that we know here as Humanoids, was in bankruptcy, or the French version of bankruptcy. I don't know what they call it. That's the publisher behind Metal Hurlant, Moebius, The Inkle, and all the other Meta Barons Universe comics by Alejandro Jodorowsky. They do Barbarella reprints. A lot of stuff, a lot of history there. Well, in October, it was announced that they were in bankruptcy, that they were $17 million in debt, $0 in assets. But just this week, they launched a Kickstarter for a new book by Alejandro Jodorowsky, by the way, who's 96 years old and is still making comics. I think that's awesome. He's way more prolific, I will say, than Stan Lee, especially in his later years. The dude loves making stories, loves it, and he's made so many comics. I think that's amazing. Also, Gabriel Rodriguez doing a story, artist of Lock and Key. They're both from Chile. The third issue of the now quarterly Metal Hurlant, it's come back. The third issue of that, people are saying in the last couple days, they're getting that delivered to their homes. That was a Kickstarter. They're getting that. So it's well, wait a minute. Why is Humanoids doing a Kickstarter and still fulfilling stuff? It's in October, they said they were bankrupt. They're clearly still operating, right? So I will someday. So Antoine Ori from Actualite, I'm just guessing, reports that somehow Humanoids transferred its comic assets into a holding company based in Luxembourg. How they could do that without having to pay off creditors, like sell their intellectual assets and everything, I have no idea. That does not make sense to me at all. When you are in final stages of bankruptcy, they weren't in the stage of bankruptcy where you reorganize. They were in the form of bankruptcy where you liquidate. Well, yeah, Les Humanoids, the publisher in France, is bankrupt, but they somehow transferred their operations to a holding company in Luxembourg, and they're still operating. And I mean, on one level, cool, they make pretty good comics. And on another, I'm just like, I'm utterly confused how you can do that. That makes no sense to me. So this week, Humanoids sent a letter to their various creators. You can read it on sites like ComicsBeat. And it sort of tries to explain what I've just been explaining to you, and maybe it'll make more sense to you if you read the letter itself, okay? Maybe I just don't get it. But it says that they're going to continue to operate, people will continue to get paid, that they're just restructuring. But I just honestly don't get how you can do that when you went bankrupt. I don't get it. Yeah, French law is different. You say rich BS, and it's like, I will say Humanoids has great history and has published some wonderful comics, but they have never been a massive publisher. They're a good, big, mid-sized company. You know what I mean? So I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I'd be concerned too, but so far nobody's complained about not getting paid. And usually that stuff does get out there on social media. If you're not getting paid, people fetch. So somehow they found a way, basically, the long and short of it is that Humanoids still exists. And it seems like people that have supported like their Kickstarters and stuff are still getting what they paid for. Nobody has reported any problems. I don't get it. Maybe somebody else will. I just thought I'd share it. It's weird. As long as we're talking about bankruptcy, it's been a while, hasn't it? I'm going to talk to you about Diamond. Who's ready for some Diamond stuff? I should really have like a glass shattering sound effect that represents a diamond breaking, which I can do with my bare hands, by the way, but I'm really strong. I'm really strong. All right, so Diamond distribution. And I'm talking specifically not the version that technically still exists, but the old company that still functions as a debtor agency, just a hollowed out husk that exists on a legal basis and still owes people. They've been in something called Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that's the kind of bankruptcy where you are given time to restructure, to pay off debts by maybe getting new income sources. Maybe you even come back from it. Didn't seem likely, but theoretically you can. Well, this week they filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 is when you are done. You are going to cease to exist as an entity. You have no way to continue. All that's left to do is liquidate anything you have left. Literally, if you have, say, just chairs, office chairs, you sell them off, and that's your remaining assets, right? It's probably been like well over a month. It's been over a month because there's not much left to talk about. But the company filed in Maryland's courts. Here's some of their quotes. The debtors cannot continue to administer their cases without funding, without any money. They can't continue to do anything. And that the bank that was funding them, which was JP Morgan Chase, has explained to them it is, quote, unwilling to finance further administration of these cases in Chapter 11. The bank says, you know what? We don't see any way to get our money back, so you're not getting any more. And without any income, they're done. They're done. So, who knows exactly what happens, but it is likely the final step of the old Diamond Distribution's existence. as it sells any remaining assets they do have, and I don't know what they would have because basically anything of value was already transferred to, when it was bought, like the company that owned it absorbed any assets that they had and sort of left a legal entity there that was responsible for paying off debts. It's such a crazy way that we can do business like that. And by the way, that's basically what oh shoot, all of a sudden I'm forgetting the name of the term I'm looking for. What does Mitt Romney do for business, folks? They're these investment firms, there's a name for it that I'm not thinking of, and they buy something, we'll say Toys R Us, and they just sell off each of its assets, the physical stuff, the intellectual property, any real estate deals, but they leave the original company there to saddled with the debts. It doesn't make sense. Someone did basically buy Diamond as a whole. Venture capital, I guess, is what I'm talking about, and private equity, yeah. So it's weird. You're basically allowed to leave this corporate entity existing that has all the debts, but you've taken all the assets away from it and put them other places. It's weird to me that it is sort of allowed, but it is. Anyway, yeah. So now it's up, like whatever they get out of whatever they're selling, like maybe they don't have, for instance, the actual warehouse. That is owned by a company called Ad Populum Sparkle Pop. Okay. But I don't know. Say they've got a couple crates of comics still that they think that they own. At this point in Chapter 7, they have to just sell it for whatever they get. And then that money, then anyone that they're owed basically has to go to court and say, I should be first to get paid. Like, because I'm not going to be made whole, but I should be first to get, like, the $5,000 there. And then this other company says, well, no, actually, because they sold my comics, I should actually get that $5,000. So they basically have to fight over the scraps. It's the worst part of the death of a business. So meanwhile, Ad Populum Sparkle Pop that I just mentioned, they bought Diamond. They took over the pieces that they wanted, which was, I think, primarily to help them with distribution of more like collectibles, things like that they already do. They've shown very little interest in continuing to exist as a comic book distributor. They've pissed off all the companies because they're not helping them get paid for, what they owe them. They've separated themselves out, and they seem to have zero interest in being a distributor. And why would they at this point? Because there was like this long bankruptcy period. Places like Lunar Distribution and Penguin Random House stepped into that void, and they took over. It would be very hard to step back in. You kind of like removed yourself for a long time, and it's hard to get back in. So anyway, yeah, fighting for scraps is what I will call this. I know, exactly. Like, that's why I put them like right after each other. I was like, these are two very different stories. Bankruptcy. I'm not a businessman. I'm just a guy with a bachelor's degree in business. Yeah, I think that was one of the better parts to come out of this, was that the people that managed Diamond UK always seemed to have a pretty good reputation for, being profitable and doing business well. And the people that were running that bought themselves from Diamond. So Diamond UK still exists to distribute comics throughout Europe, and they seem to be doing a good job. And so that is one of the nicer parts, because it's like, it was almost sad that they were saddled with how bad things were going with Diamond, but they are their own entity now. Talking about some more distribution, but different. No more bankruptcy stuff. No, Canadian comics distributor Universal, they bought the rights to Free Comic Book Day from Diamond Distribution. Diamond Distribution created that term, the logo, the branding, and that intellectual property. I don't know what that was worth, but Universal bought it. Canadian comics distributor who's been making inroads into distributing comics here in America as well. Anyway, they've announced a few details for the next Free Comic Book Day. Now look here, I ain't no big city lawyer. Why, I'm just a humble attorney of modest means from a tiny town called Biloxi, Mississippi. But I do know this. I do know that Section 2, Paragraph B of the state law does declare that my client cannot be found guilty under Rule 2, Section 37. I don't know where I'm going. So, Free Comic Book Day, they've announced, is going to be held on May 2nd. Same as always, first Saturday in May. That's been what they've always done. Participating publishers that have already committed to working with Universal, they're going to include Archie, DC, Dynamite, Image, Mad Cave, Oni, Titan, Udon, and Vault. It's already 9 big companies. I did see that like Marvel wasn't listed there. I don't see like say Distillery or somebody like that. So not everybody yet. Universal did say though that they will also partner with Lunar Distribution and Diamond UK to distribute the comics through their networks. But some of those may not include that Free Comic Book Day branding. But yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily want to be one of the comic shop owners figuring this out, but it looks like there are steps in place to take over. And they're going to announce the specific titles soon. That'll be more interesting, but cool. That's right. Free Comic Book Day now has health insurance because they are set up in Canada. Torso, a Brian Michael Bendis book. Good book, by the way. His earliest stuff before he did Marvel superheroes, a lot of crime comics, very cool stuff. So one of Bendis' earliest comics, not the earliest, but one of his earlier ones, 98's Torso. It's going to be adapted into a film by Netflix. The graphic novel was originally an Image comic, 6-issue series, and it's a true story. It's Elliot Ness's life after all the Al Capone stuff. Elliot Ness, I mean, maybe you've seen the movie Untouchables before. Pretty famous story. Good movie, by the way. Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, Robert De Niro. Really good movie, but real life story. But of course, he still continued to exist as a lawman after the Elliot Ness stuff. So what happened after that? Well, there was still something pretty dramatic. After he moved to Cleveland, he got embroiled in the hunt for a serial killer who was leaving torsos in the river and leaving taunting notes to police. So, yeah, still had some pretty dramatic stuff going on in his life. The Elliot Ness stuff tends to overshadow it. Organized crime is big and interesting, but a serial killer is pretty interesting too. Bendis and Mark Andreyko wrote the story. Bendis himself did the artwork. Bendis used to draw his own stories. Goldfish, Torso. What else did he do? There's another one I'm forgetting. The Torso Killer's Cleveland's Jack the Ripper. Yeah. The story is, but not an adaptation of this specific comic. Yeah. A Giallo. I've never seen that. Maybe I'd like it. I do like a lot of Giallo. Netflix won a bidding war. It was said to be in the 7 figures, so we're talking millions of dollars to adapt this true crime story. Bendis and Andreyko are on board as producers, as well as weapons director Zach Krager. Now, he's not directing this. He's only producing, but obviously weapons, pretty huge. And yeah, it's like good timing to have somebody like that on board to push this forward. What else? Weapons, you may remember, one of the storyboard artists famously is, what's his name? Hold on. Patrick Horvath from Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Yeah, Patrick Horvath did a bunch of the storyboards, including the sequence where, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into all that. You can look that up. By the way, this comic has come really close to being adapted in Hollywood about 3 different times. David Fincher was attached at Paramount to do it for a really long time, but he wanted to do it in black and white, and was like, Zodiac really helped, but doing it in black and white and how expensive it was going to be, Paramount sort of blinked at the last minute. At one point, Paul Greengrass was going to do it. He's a great director. A lot of good writers involved, too. It's had producers, including Todd McFarlane, involved at different points. The story of Torso is legit pretty interesting. And it isn't the full story anymore, but Bendis' book, like Andy Brining is saying, Fortune and Glory, it's about the early days of selling Torso in Hollywood. It is really funny. This year, Bendis did another Fortune and Glory book about adapting Spider-Man into the Broadway musical. Very, very funny and interesting, too. Yeah. For some reason, when I read the way you've typed it, it makes me think Jeff Goldblum. Yes, well, beneath the torsos where nobody more so's. Yes. Wicked. In theaters now. Moving on. Comics the Magazine. Looks interesting. Comics the Magazine. It's going to launch in March of 2026. Looks to be very much in the mold of the late Wizard, The Guide to Comics. And that was popular for a very long time. A lot of us read Wizard. I read Wizard for ages. I liked it. It had its problems, but I liked it. Comics the Magazine is going to be published by former retailer Adam Freeman, who currently heads up Prana Direct Market Solutions, and they track sales, including comic book sales figures. Now, you have to sort of pay to have a membership to get full access to that, but that would be some very interesting data to have access to if you were this magazine. So let me continue. The magazine promises, at least for the issue 1, in-depth interview with the entire Absolute Batman creative team, a round-table discussion of comics pros that's going to be led by Tony Fleeks. I really respect Tony. I think he's entertaining and smart and could do a really good job there. Something called Pullbox Power Rankings, which is going to be backed by Prana's sales data. I think that could potentially be very interesting information. A lot of us have been saying that there is no transparency in sales data ever since Diamond stopped sharing that kind of stuff. When Diamond was the only game in town for decades, they shared every week's and every month's sales data. Now, we really only get that when, say, DC is like, hey, we're on our 10th printing of Absolute Batman. Here's how many copies. And you're like, wow, that is a lot of copies. But I wonder what, sold second best this month. I don't know. We only see the absolute top stuff, but we've got nothing to compare it to, There's going to be a new original comic in it by Rob Geary, who did Chew, and a price guide. And I will say the price guide piece disappoints me a little because I think that the sales data, the what they're calling Pullbox Power Rankings, really interesting. That kind of transparency, good for everybody. A price guide, I think that first of all, we live in a day and era where we can go on eBay and Heritage Auctions and Mercari and see what something is worth and decide if that's worth it to us. When you put it in print and that makes it feel like this is the definitive correct price, even though it's going to be an average of, the world, I think that inspires speculation. That inspires a casual person to say, this book came out last month, but it's selling for double. I'm interested in buying it and flipping it. That's what I worry about. That is what I worry about because I think specifically that Wizard magazine led to that. And they kind of knew it. They kind of knew it. The Sheamus family was specifically benefiting. They ran, remember, comics and collectibles store, and they could say, hey, this comic is going up in value, and then they could charge more for it. It was a little shady there. It was a little shady. Now, as far as I know, the people running Comics the Magazine do not run a comic book store or site on top of that. So there isn't that same conflict of interest. But I do worry a little about emphasizing the speculator mindset, because I think the variant covers and blind bags, I think, are fun and cool, but I do think that there's a danger to them if we do too much. And if the casual non-comic reader decides to get into it as an investment, they are not going to stay long-term. They are not going to be investing in comics for the next 20 years. Whereas a comic reader is going to be buying comics for the next 20 years. They're going to come in, inflate the industry, disappear at some point, and everything's going to crash. It's happened before more than once. I do worry about it. Oh my God. I see that goddamned Kalshi ad everywhere I go. It is driving me nuts. If you haven't seen it, it's basically like legalized betting by pretending that it's stock market trading. But basically you can trade against anything. Like, I think that this movie will make $30 million this weekend. I don't. It becomes a bet. I see it everywhere. It drives me nuts. But if the emphasis on this is on interviews and transparent sales data, I do see that as a benefit. I think that that's cool. I want to see journalism in comics. I personally think that there's very little active journalism. There's reporting of like press releases. There's commentary. I don't know that there's a lot of journalism. And I'm not saying that against anyone. There is some. There is. I think, Comic Speed is a journalistic source. Of course it is. I think that a lot of YouTubers that talk about comics, not all, but I think a lot of them are trying to do more of a journalism thing where they're saying, like, here's the context in which this comic came out. Well, that's journalism, as compared to just like recapping something or saying these are the sales numbers for the week. I bet I could live without one of my kitties. I bet I could live without both. Let's find out. Oh, yeah, that was fun, the action figure thing. And hey, that led to, what do you call it? Is that show still on, Robot Chicken? Or is that ended? Because Robot Chicken definitely came out of action figure theater. WEBTOON announced an overhaul of how they're going to work with artists in 2026. Ostensibly, this is for the benefit of artists. Of course, it's for the benefit of their long-term success as well. So beginning next year, WEBTOON is going to roll out expanded monetization options. Good. New forms of event and convention support. I'd be curious for more details on that. And new educational offerings aimed at helping creators grow. They're going to create like videos teaching people things. I like that idea. The first big initiative that they're talking about this week, they're going to create something called a creator residency program. And that's going to launch at the beginning of 2026. It's going to be held twice annually. It's going to be a 2-week immersive program at WEBTOON's LA offices. It's going to bring together up to 9 original creators every year, and they'll get to do all sorts of meetings with editors, with other creators. They're going to get all sorts of training on, I think, even like money management and stuff, but all sorts of teams that work at WEBTOON to understand how it works, what the readership is, how to position themselves better, and how to make, hopefully better comics. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Applications, if you are a WEBTOON type creator or you want to be, the applications are going to open up in a few days, December 18th. And they've said that they will be announcing more plans to connect creators, to build revenue streams for themselves. And that could be through Canvas. It could be through new initiatives. They said they're just going to be announcing more in the coming months. I hope it is for the benefit of the creators. I think that for long-term sustainability, WEBTOON does have a vested interest in making sure that creators get paid well. Yes, there's always going to be a few people interested in a platform to debut as an emerging artist. Emerging artists always need a platform and might be willing to take little to no pay just to get their foot in the door. I get that. But if you want a top-tier product so that people keep coming to your site, you need to make sure that the best creators are motivated to be there. So hopefully some of these things help. Well, we shall see. We shall see. Got one more thing I wanted to talk about, which is just some upcoming indie comics that I thought looked interesting. One is called Freaks Squeal, and that's a superhero school. It's by a Franco-Belgian artist, but it's in a manga style. Here's just one panel of it. I thought it looked interesting. There's the website for that. And then the other one I was interested in, I talked about in the news. It's called From Chile to the Edge of Imagination. And what that is it's got two stories. One by Alejandro Jodorowsky with American artist Pete Woods, and another, I'm forgetting the name of the writer right now. I should have studied it harder. But art by Gabriel Rodriguez from Lock and Key. And there's the website for that. Don't know why one of them is in purple as though I clicked on it and the other isn't. I've obviously been to both sites. Anyway, so you can kind of like screen cap those if you were interested in learning any more about it. You know what I forgot? And I even had a note here for myself. I've got a sponsor. So I've still got a lot of show left because I'm going to do the comic book reviews and I'm going to draw. So we've still got a lot of show. This episode is sponsored. Sponsored? Hell yeah. Let me show you who it's sponsored by.
Hi, I am Preeti Chibber, and you know I had to bring out my prescription heart glasses to talk about the Supernatural Valentine's Day special that I am writing. I am so excited to be joining in on the great work that Greg Pak and Heather Macias have been doing on the mainline run. But I am dying to talk about this special, starting with, of course, the art. I'm working with the incredible Pasquale Qualano, and we have these amazing covers from Kat Staggs, Reese Hannigan, Megan Hetrick, and of course Pasquale's own. It is going to be this dramatic story of love and loss and quips and, of course, monsters. So I hope that you will check out what the Winchesters are up to in February 2026. Thank you so much, and never forget that Supernatural is forever. Bye.
Thank you to Dynamite. I appreciate that. I edit together their ads like that, so hopefully that was a little interesting. And guess what? I'm actually a super big Supernatural nerd. I am. I love Sam and Dean. I think the Winchesters are so cool. I love that show. One of the guys that was a writer and producer on it was Ben Edlund, creator of The Tick, a comic book guy. Worked on that. He worked on that show for a very long time. I think over 10 years. And I don't know, but I like it. I like it a lot. And obviously, the creator of that show, Eric Kripke, has gone on to create The Boys, another Dynamite comic, by the way. And the upcoming final season of The Boys is going to have both Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki, who played respectively Dean and Sam on Supernatural. They're both going to be new characters. Well, one of them we've already seen, but yeah, they're going to be on The Boys, and I think that's cool. I just really am a nerd for Supernatural. I think that the idea of a Valentine's special is perfect. I mean, maybe we'll get some hearts ripped out. I don't know, but I think it sounds like a cool idea to me. And yeah. Oh, all right, nice. Very nice. No, I didn't see what they posted. Sorry. Yeah. He was a huge creative guy on Ben Edlund was on the show for like at least 10 years, I think. You watched all 15? I still have to finish the last few. I fell off and I need to finish it, but I do love the show. It ran for a long time and I love it. I think it's really cool. So, I think that the Supernatural Valentine special looks fun. I think Pretty Chiba, I butchered your name. I'm sorry, Pretty. I think she has the right tone and style. I think some of the variant covers look cool too. The Cat Stags one looks cool, but also Reese Hannigan, such a talented guy. One of these guys from Ireland that's friends with like Declan Shalvey and Danny Earls and that whole team, Gary Maloney. There's a bunch of wonderful guys. Reese is a really good artist. He's been drawing Bad Batch, Star Wars Bad Batch. He did one of the variant covers that I think looks really good. So I know that was a lot of me talking about Supernatural. What can I say? I'm a nerd. Why don't we pivot from that to get into doing the reviews and talking about the comics that came out this week? There were some great ones. Let's get into that.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What?
Speaking of bad reviews,
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
There we go. There we go. Let's get into it. There were some good comics this week. Oh my God. Reviews for you and you and you. Let me zoom out a tiny bit just so that you can see a little bit more of this. And I'm going to start by talking about Absolute Batman. We knew this issue was coming. There was a bit of hype for it. We'd seen the cover with this bizarre take on Joker. This is the absolute version of Joker. Very different character in a lot of ways from what we're used to, but that's good. Guest artist for this, and I believe next issue, Jock, who has worked with writer Scott Snyder on some great comics like Batman Black Mirror, The Witches. Great partners. Great partners. And it is all told from the perspective of Alfred, who's a spy in this comic, talking to Batman about who he believes the Joker to be. But I want to talk about some of the stuff like the art in this. Let me zoom out for... no, you know what I could do? Hold on. Just for this shot, I wanted to show you a little bit more of it. Maybe this seems too obvious, but I think that Jock created a great splash page for the title, where we are, of course, talking about all the different information about who this guy Joker might be. But, of course, we've also got a smile and a face, don't we? And I think that that's really clever. But even more subtle is the very end, where this character is going down into a staircase, and that is definitely like at least half of a smiling face as well. So some of it's a little more subtle. This is a little more obvious, and I think that that is totally fair for a title page. It does still give us relevant information to the type of story we're about to get. It's setting a stage here because we're talking, in a way, it's a little bit of a conspiracy theory because there's not much information out there about who the Joker is. There's something to be said about that. I will get to that. So we've got Alfred explaining the history of this family, supposedly. Okay? Joseph or Jack Grimm. And it goes from the first through the second, third, fourth to the modern day, the fifth. And essentially it's just saying that this family, the Grimms, has always made its money off of entertainment, from, basically vaudeville to theater, silent films, TV, 24/7 news cycle, video games, online games, and social media. They've stayed current and made their fortune off of this stuff, and that's fine. But we sort of keep coming back to it, okay? Because like Bruce Wayne's going, well, okay, cool. What does that really tell me? He's like, well, there's not that much. He goes, fine, got it. There's not much true information out there. Tell me what you think. And each time we come back to the same story and we learn a little bit more about at least what Alfred has put together over the years. And he suspects that essentially this family has not just made its money off of entertainment, but has funded both sides of wars throughout history, so that no matter who wins, they will ultimately be on the right side through a series of shell companies. There's some subtle stuff in this. By the time we get to it a third time, and I love that it's got sort of 3 versions. Wait, is it 3? I thought it was 3. Hold on. Let me double check. 1, 2. I'm just flipping around to check on something. I could have sworn there was another. I guess that there's more just like sort of 2 takes on this plus some extra information. But what's interesting is that Alfred said, so what if beyond doing all that, he also, this family definitely was on the cutting edge every time of like chemicals to biology. He suspects that maybe it's not 5 men, that maybe it's 1. It's interesting. It's very interesting. A man who has throughout time pretended to be a clown, but it's really making the joke on the other side because he is always playing people against each other, and it's awful. It is 3? Okay, I missed one. Sorry, folks. In between that, what's cool about the structure here is that we get something set in the modern day. This guy's so rich, the Joker, I'm calling him, that he owns islands, and he maybe goes there to hunt. And what does he hunt? He definitely hunts people. And this guy recognizes him and is like surprised, but we don't really know why or anything until we finally get to that 3rd iteration of the flashback where it's implied that maybe he sends his opponents to these islands, lets them just go crazy by being alone in the wilderness for years or even decades, and then maybe hunts them down. It's just implied. The last thing I'll talk about is just the design of him. He can turn into this crazy monster that looks like something out of a Bill Sienkiewicz nightmare. He's all teeth. And that is a little bit, I do wonder if, something like Pennywise inspired this, because that is another clown with obviously just rows and rows of teeth. And I wonder, and that might be intentional, it might not be. I don't know. But I like some of the ideas behind this. I like that it's a riff on The Deadliest Game, which is a classic story, but really focuses on how scary the hunter is. I like that this version of the Joker sort of unleashes into this laughing crazy monster, but otherwise is a very stoic businessman seemingly. There's a lot of depth to this. Like I say, there's sort of the flashback stories and the modern day stuff going on. It keeps it interesting because every time we sort of pause to learn something that's getting really interesting, it switches to the other scene. And I read this twice and I got something different out of it a couple times. And I'm trying not to give it all to you, but I liked it a lot. Very well positioned. I've heard Welcome to Derry is fantastic. I'm going to try to find some time to watch that. I like Jock's art quite a bit, so this works for me, but that is going to be a matter of taste. I do also sort of like the idea, though, that like we're going with something that like visually has some similarities to Joker. You know, the white, the green, the big smile, but otherwise we're also turning it into a literal monster. I think that that's a pretty interesting take. The absolute Batman villains are legit scary, and almost every single villain has really traded in body horror and like the horrors of what you can do to your own body, including some of the crazy stuff Batman has done, like hiding little blades in his skin and stuff just in case. Thank you for the super chat. Joker's backstory was great and very creative. Using the same page with multiple versions added some cinematic quality. It's a very layered story for one issue. I felt like I got a lot of value out of one issue. The last thing I'll just sort of point out is this. This is the Joker going down into a cave, right? And you're like, oh, okay, hold on. Adjusting a clock to go down into a cave. Well, that's Batman usually. Usually Batman has a bat cave, and he has since somewhere in like it was, I think, the 50s, they invented the idea of the grandfather clock. And then later, it might have been the 60s or something, they said that what Batman does was he moves the clocks to the time when his parents were killed. But that's what Joker is doing here. Because this version of Bruce Wayne is not rich. He doesn't seem to have a bat cave per se. Only his father has been killed, not his mother. So he's a very different character. But that was interesting to see that this version of the Joker might have some similarities to what we know of Bruce Wayne. I don't know. We don't know the significance of why he's moving these clock dials or what he has in his cave. But it is interesting to see that in this version, the villain might have some canonical elements of what we're used to seeing with the hero. Yeah, let's see. Did I notice that the barrels in the original Splash were marked Zyklon? The barrels? Oh, in the original Splash? Is that this? First of all, I didn't catch that, but Zyklon is the Joker's laughing gas, right? Or do I have that wrong? Anyway. This is definitely a villain for today. Not just the monstrous part, but the fact that he is a businessman approaching trillionaire status who has made his money on the face of it off of entertainment, but then you look a notch deeper and no, he's profited off of war. I'm all messed up inside. Oh, excuse me. Zyklon is what the Nazis used. Dark. Excuse me. Yes, that's why it sounded familiar. I was trying to, I guess, think of comic references. Boops. Gross. Yeah, exactly. The Waynes are traditionally old money. And when he was created, that was kind of cool and empowering, right? But these days, I don't think the average person really respects that. In fact, if anything, it's a little scary. So now we've transferred that to the villain. And it just shows how times have changed on one level. But I like it. I like that it creates a contrast. You could enjoy Absolute Batman completely in and of itself. If this is your introduction to Batman, it's a cool story. If you've also read Batman for a while and you know some of the canon elements and you've seen them played with, it's very interesting to see the changes and the updates and to think of that in societal terms. Most of that is just how Jock draws. He's got a very angular style, I would argue. Instead of like lots of curves, you know, his musculature will have like a sharp angle to it generally. It's just how it's stylistic. I'll move on, but I do really like this book a lot. Transformers is a little different now that Robert Kirkman is writing it and artist Dan Mora, but it is still very fun. This episode doesn't focus on the Decepticons at all. It focuses on like some new characters like Bulkhead. It focuses on mentally where I guess it does have a tiny bit of Decepticons, sorry. it focuses mentally on where Ultra Magnus is. Now, he was like basically tortured by the Decepticons for a long time. And while he can still fight and sort of train some of the Autobots, he knows that he's not doing well. And he asks RC to basically step up and be the Magnus. And I never thought of Magnus as a title in Autobots or Transformers lore. I just hadn't thought of that. But it makes sense, because Optimus Prime, there's supposedly other primes out there, right? And Magnus being a title, I was like, oh, I kind of like that. I kind of like that quite a bit. But the most interesting development for me was something that seemed to be in the works, and yeah, they followed through on it. A bad guy, Thundercracker, doesn't agree with everything the Autobots do and still sort of has love for his brethren in the Decepticons, but he agrees to join the Autobots because he doesn't believe in it actually, like, Kirkman does a great job explaining something like this here. Hold on. Where is it? They've got a good sort of philosophical argument, but here he is with Autobot symbols. That's a big change. Maybe it was back where it started. Okay, yeah. He and Optimus Prime have a conversation. And Thundercracker says, look, I don't see the reason to be needlessly cruel to those that are weaker. He's talking about humans. I don't see the need for that. And I don't like that that's what my Decepticon people do. He goes, but is it okay to admit there's a part of me that agrees that they are still beneath me? So he doesn't see it the same as Optimus Prime. He sees it as needlessly cruel, and he's not okay with that. But he says, if I had to choose between Skywarp, a fellow Decepticon, and 100 of these creatures, I would choose Skywarp. So I find that interesting, like where he is. He's in this gray area where he does not want to needlessly kill that which is weaker, but he does still, to be honest, value like his brother more than them. And I'll go, okay, so he's still got a journey to go. He's still got a journey. He's okay with regular cruel in one sense. They both agree that they're at war, and they have been for a long time, and it's probably not going to stop anytime soon. But he doesn't see he's like, being cruel to your opponent in a war is different than being cruel to innocent bystanders that are not as strong as you. I won't get into it too much, but there is also some really fun stuff as a subplot between General Flag and Miles Mayhem, where Miles is just an out-and-out bad guy. I don't really trust General Flag 100%, but Miles Mayhem, I mean, we kind of know that in the lore, he's the leader of the bad guys on the show Mask and the toy line Mask. In this, he's technically working for the government right now and understanding transforming technology, but he's a total asshole. He's just the worst. The art is fun. It's good. I really like that there are some scenes with like Daniel and Carly, because I do think Dan Mora draws nice looking, pretty people. But he's definitely found a way to adapt his style to include drawing robots that all have different proportions and designs. Well, he's not being a fence sitter because he hasn't stayed in between the teams. He's switched over to being an Autobot. He's willing to give it a try. Interesting idea. Vietnam War movie type of themes. It is sort of a pointless war that the Autobots and Decepticons are fighting at this point. They're not really fighting any more specifically for, say, one piece of land or something along those lines, or a political movement. I don't know. Love the covers by David Nakayama. Very, very cool. So here's a book that I guess came out last week, and I totally missed that it was something new. I saw this on the stand. It's a floppy, Criminal, and I go, oh, it must be a reprint. Because I thought that Brubaker and Phillips, I thought that they were just exclusively doing full volume hardcover books at this point. Every 6 months they do one. Where would they have time to do like a big, thick one-shot like this? Well, they did. I don't know. So thank you to the people here that explained that to me. But we've got basically just a one-shot story of, what's his name? Lawless. Sorry, there's a couple Lawless people, and I keep thinking of his father. Ricky Lawless. Ricky Lawless is more of a small-time crook. He's not a complete idiot, but he also gives in to his impulses and doesn't pay close attention to details very well. And the long and short of it is he hides out in a hotel to rob a poker player when he gets back to his room. But here's where he messes up. He's going to be hiding for a long time. So he takes a bump of cocaine. Except he messed up. And it was bad heroin. So it actually makes him pass out. And then just a crazy series of events happen. He orders like room service. An escort comes to the room. And he's like, I don't even know if this really happened or what. It's a really funny series of misadventures over one night in this hotel room. A lot of stuff happens. We get to know a little bit more about Ricky through some flashbacks. Well, the last name was Lawless to begin with. And Teague, their father, was a real piece of crap. This is definitely similar to the Batman Deadpool situation. I didn't realize that this was new, but it is. And even though they call it #1 here, to be clear, it's a one-shot. And I hope they do more like this, but you get a complete story. So it is $5.99, but it's also thick. It's not just a 22-page story. I think it might be 48. It might be 36. It's not numbered, so I don't know. It's printed on newsprint, which helps give it a little bit of a textured, gritty feel. It's a crime book. I think it's nice. The colors don't need to be on bright white, matte paper. This is still some pretty thick newsprint. It looks great. The colors by Jacob Phillips really suit the story. I mean, like, this is a tone, right? Like, these cool colors, that's not necessarily realistic, but it makes us think it's evening time. It's dark. And then you get a flashback, and it's a different color palette, right? Because this is like a setting sun, and we've still got like a little bit of purple or something, so there's a little bit of red. But then this flashback, it's all washed out colors. But it each has a palette and a tone, and there's a reason for some of these colors. This is very red here, but it's because it's a quick snap, a pop of violence. Works so well, folks. This is a great crime book. It moves so fast. It just breezes by. I loved it. It was a blast. So this, to be clear, gets a strong recommend. I'm having fun with Transformers, but so far, these two are the ones I would give strong recommends. Absolute Batman and Criminal. Those are the two that I have the strongest feelings for this week. Ninja Turtles issue 13, but it's the beginning of a new creative team and a new story arc. Writer is Gene Lun Yang, who I think I kind of like this so far more than the Jason Aaron run for the story. The artist, Freddie Williams II, he's good. I did kind of prefer Juan Ferreira, but that's okay. He's done a bunch of stuff before. And we're kind of back a little bit to basics. The Ninja Turtles are finally united as brothers. They're actually battling criminals out on the streets of New York. I like that. I like their banter. It moves quickly. They each have a distinct voice. I can basically hear different voice actors that have done the Turtles when I read these lines, and I consider that a good thing. It makes them feel very real in my head. It's cool. There's also a really cool twist to a new villain that we see at the beginning of the story. A character that's called Ujigami. And Ujigami is killing some of the organized crime in New York City. But it is not a completely new character. There is something that's pretty cool about the character that we learn by the end. So I think it sets up some potential good storylines with villains. I think it's got a good new mystery character. I think the dialogue and banter with the turtles themselves feels real, authentic, not overwritten, and it moves at a good pace with actual like action scenes. And I like that. I do like seeing, like, the turtles should bicker, but mostly I do like them united as a team. Every once in a while, I do want, like, you know, conflicts to push them apart, but not for too long, because they're more interesting bouncing off of each other. There's 4 very different, at this point, quite well-defined personalities. You go back to the original characters by Laird and Eastman, it is bursting with creative ideas. It's great, and it's badass. But I think it took quite a while for those personalities to truly emerge. You know, and the cartoons and the movies and the comics, at this point, you do sort of find what works and what doesn't. They've had a lot of trial and error, and I think that we're at a point where you kind of know when the characters feel right. Now, the story is always going to be up to the writer, but the personalities, the actual dialogue, and the choices that the characters make, they're at a point where it feels right or it feels out of character. And this felt very right to me. Yeah, this hooked me enough to see where this goes. I'm very curious, actually. The last run was interesting and kind of cool. I liked the art quite a bit, so I stuck with it because I also have some, you know, affection for these characters. I really do. I like Ninja Turtles, but I didn't absolutely love it. It wasn't my favorite thing. Oh yeah, to be clear, the artist of this, Freddie Williams too, he's been on Red Letter Media several times over the years. You know, Best of the Worst. He's done, I think, some reviews with them, at least one. He's done an episode where Mike talks about his obsession with ghost hunting, and he helps them look for ghosts. For real. My favorite turtle is definitely Donatello. I've kind of backed off on it, but for years I was collecting any version, any variant of a Donatello action figure. And it finally has gotten to the point where toys cost a lot. I don't need more clutter. I've kind of backed off. I do love the turtles, but I think I'm going to try to stop collecting every version because I definitely don't have every version from the last several years. And so that's as good a time as any to probably stop. Plus, one of the ones that I was like missing from like back in the 90s costs hundreds of dollars now. If you've ever seen, there's a Ninja Turtle from Playmates, a Donatello, that's in a trench coat, and he has a fedora, and you can put a plastic human face on him. And that one is like a dime a dozen. It's one of the most common figures out there. But there was a version of it that was only sold in the UK that does not have the plastic molded trench coat and instead had a cloth trench coat. That version is super expensive. Super expensive. Goes for hundreds of dollars. Hard to find. I never found it at a good price. And it's like basically the only old figure of Donatello that I don't have. I've basically got everything from Donatello up to when the new movie came out like a year or two ago. And then I've decided to sort of back off. Yeah, I'll destroy the trees with these floppies, but no more oil going to the molding of the plastics. My favorite turtle is the 2013 version of Slash. Was that the one that was voiced by Corey Feldman, I think? Just kind of cool to see him come back to Ninja Turtles. You know, at some point I'll probably see if there might be a collector that would want to buy the entire Donatello collection, but most people probably collect either one or two missing figures or collect all Ninja Turtles. I doubt there's many people in there that would want to buy an entire Donatello collection, just boxes and boxes, because I did take them out of the box too. I did. Anyway, but it's good, folks. It's cool. There was, second to last issue. I review comics. I know what we're talking about. Second to last issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. So I would have hoped that this was going to be lots of Peter Parker as Spider-Man. No. I like, but do not love this book. It is good. It is good. I've enjoyed reading it. I love the art when Marco Cicchetto. Cicchetto? I think it's Cicchetto. It might be Cicchetto. I love when Marco draws it. A lot of the issues are drawn by fill-in artist, I think it's David Messina. This one has some of both of them. It's got a few pages by Messina, which are fine, but I absolutely love the art by Cicchetto. No, not there yet. Well, here's one. Here's a page. And there is some good Spider-Man action in this, and there is some good stuff of Peter Parker as an adult. I think that I expected some different stuff out of this. When I saw that it was going to be an adult Peter Parker, still a young man, but, a father and a husband, I thought that there would be a little more of the soap opera melodrama we typically get in a Spider-Man book. And there's been some of that, but it's not a lot from his point of view. There's been a lot of stuff with Harry Osborn as the heroic Green Goblin. There's been a lot of stuff with his son Ben as a Spider-Man. And there's been a lot of stuff with villains. And I don't mind the subplots at all. In fact, a lot of them are interesting. But it does sort of feel sometimes like Spider-Man is only as important as all these other characters. He's not the most important. I definitely thought we'd be seeing some more of that. Spider-Man, or Peter really, having to deal with being a father and an adult and making these decisions. But more it's been like he's talking to his family, but they're on the run for a while. Or, he's arguing about what he should or should not do as Spider-Man with Mary Jane. I don't know. And the only villains throughout the arc, I do admire the focus, have been the Sinister Six. And Kingpin is a cool villain. He's good in this. I loved their take on Kraven. I think Mole Man is more, and Mysterio are interesting ideas, but they've dedicated a lot of pages to those characters. And yeah, it made them more interesting, but it does come a little bit at the expense of Spider-Man himself. And so while I'm showing you some of this Spider-Man stuff, there's also a bunch of stuff here with Mysterio and Green Goblin, and there's stuff with Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson, and that's fine. There's, subplots with Ben Parker as Spider-Man and Black Cat. I think when I look back at this run, I like it. And I'll probably enjoy it more with a little bit of time. I think I might enjoy it once there's been time and my expectations can separate from what actually got delivered. Once I sort of have those expectations adjusted, I think I might enjoy this more because I do like some of the ideas in here. But I will still probably have that same complaint that there should be a little more of a percentage of the story focused on Spider-Man. There's been a surprising amount, when you consider that it's only going to be a 2-year run, there's been a surprising amount of focus on developing the villains and the supporting cast, including Harry Osborn. So you're right that Marvel may not have originally planned on ending the line after 2 years. However, Jonathan Hickman was signed on to oversee it and to write this book for a 2-year contract. So from his point of view, he probably always saw it as a 2-year thing. And he should have, I think, had a little more closure in mind, potentially. Spider-Man, what's his story? That's my Australian accent. Yeah, Hickman. Jonathan Hickman. I don't think it's bad. I don't. I think it's interesting. And I might appreciate it more if I look back at it in a year or something. I might. I won't know until I've had that distance. In the meantime, like I said, I love the art when Kiketto draws it. I think he draws a fantastic looking Spider-Man, a fantastic looking Mary Jane, a fantastic Peter Parker. Do we get to see any of that in this? I think it's mostly just Kiketto drawing the fun action-y stuff. Yeah, I don't think we really get to see his Peter or his MJ in this. That's by Messina. It's a little bit of a miss. Marvel came really close to being exceptional with the Ultimate Universe this time around, because I do have nothing but positive things to say about the Ultimates and Ultimate X-Men. I think both of them very strong across the board, very strong. And this is very good, but not perfect. Not perfect. I'll just do quick reviews for the rest of the things. Punisher is a little funnier than in the past because we've got a supporting character. I won't go into it, but we've also got some extreme violence, including a moment I never thought I'd see again, where Punisher blames himself for things and he tries to end it all, but it doesn't quite go according to plan. Badass artwork by Dan Panosian, really detestable villain, and some good humor by Jimmy Palmiotti. Palmiotti is good at a sarcastic, dark sense of humor. It is fun. What else? Infernal Hulk, also super fun with the artwork by Nick Klein. This specifically has the evil Hulk battling an ancient Cthulhu-esque monster that's beneath Atlantis. And Namor and his people are just sort of in the way. Nobody knows that this is just an evil demon in the Hulk's body. There's some great body horror stuff in here. Nick Klein knocks it out of the park. Really cool. But I will be interested to see when Bruce Banner, who is completely separate from Hulk now, when he really starts to become part of the story. Right now, we still need to get to know exactly what this version of Hulk is and what its mission is. But just some great monster fights. Pretty fun. G.I. Joe issue 323, I'll just say that for people like me that have been reading since the beginning, this was fun because Cobra Commander brings back a lot of characters we haven't seen in a long time, part of the High Command. Basically, people that aren't soldiers but are like named villains, like Firefly, Copperhead, Scrap Iron, Tomax, and Zaymot. It's all stuff from the villain's point of view for the entire issue. The Dreadnoks like really establish how dangerous Zartan is. There's stuff showing how powerful Destro is. It's all four villainous factions, because there's also cyborg robots now. But let me talk real quick also about Blood and Thunder. Issue 8 already. Congratulations to Benito and EJ Sue. Already at issue 8. That has flown by. I like this issue significantly more than the last one, where I found I always have trouble pronouncing Akeldama's name. I'll just call her Bloodsoe. So Bloodsoe is on an alien planet looking to get revenge on this total asshole, big, rich, and racist guy that's been abusing all the locals. And in this, she comes across an alien race that ends up basically being allies. Look at these designs by EJ Sue. At first, when I saw these bug-like aliens, I wondered for a moment if these were supposed to be the aliens in Invincible. At one point, Omni-Man has a baby with an alien, but it isn't because these have 4 arms, and that one was 2. It's just a somewhat similar bug head design. It is not the same character. It's just a little similar. But yeah, really likable characters this time around. Funny jokes. I just found Thunder, her gun, which has an AI, I found him very annoying because he doesn't want to kill or fight or anything. And I don't want to see one of the allies just be a constant like cock block to the action. But anyway, he's sort of sidelined here, and I'm fine with that. I like Lord of the Rings. I've read all the books. Yeah. I missed the first issue, so I picked up the trade paperback. I liked it, but there's no cover gallery or sketches in it. Oh, they're probably trying to be efficient with how many pages they did for it then. Thunder is just sort of a buzzkill, and I'm sure that that's intentional, but I find it annoying. I don't know. But I love the world building of this. I love that it, even though it's like an intergalactic story, it often has an Old West feeling. There's lots of showdowns, face-offs, frontier towns on these planets, even though they've got aliens and robots and stuff. There's a very Western feel to this book. Great character designs, legit funny jokes in this, funny twists that I didn't see coming, like this robot lady that runs a brothel of robots, like just turning out to be armed to the teeth. I don't know. I find that visual very funny. And I absolutely despise the villain in this. Anyway, I had a great time with this issue. I loved it. I loved it. Great art, funny story, cool ideas. No problem. Nothing to complain about. What do I choose for book of the week? I will say that the 3 that I enjoyed the most were actually Blood and Thunder, Criminal, and Absolute Batman. And I think most of the time that I've got Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips in the running, I absolutely love them. And they will almost always be my favorite thing that I read in that week. But I was surprised by this, folks. Absolute Batman 15 is my pick for book of the week. This thing was fantastic. If you didn't pick it up, I really recommend getting it. It starts a new story arc. It's a weird take on a villain that's different. And I feel like this is just such a layered story. I felt like I got such a good value out of these 22 pages of story. Just incredible storytelling. So good. I agree, Beowulf. Ed and Sean are a tough act to beat. And you know what? I think that this was the book of the week. I skipped it to avoid spoilers. Does Absolute Batman keep up the manga feel? Maybe a little in terms of some of the action, but I don't think Jock is an especially manga-esque artist. I think Dragotta is more. So visually, not necessarily so much. I definitely feel like story-wise, it all feels of a kind. Loved it. Yeah, Absolute Batman over Criminal for me this one time. And I loved Criminal. I strongly recommend it. I hope you can read it. I hope you like it as much as I did, because I did. But I think that I appreciated just in and of itself. I just felt like this was a very complete story. It interests me to read more in that world. I'm glad that there is more. And I felt like it really was well-paced and well-layered. Very, very good. I bought it at my comic shop. I buy all my comics. I take my lunch break and I race I've got a 1-hour lunch break. It takes me about usually 23 to 25 minutes to get to the comic store. So I've got 5 to 10 minutes to buy the comics, zip right back to work. And I've never been late, but it's close. It's tight. It's very tight. So I give up my lunch break and I buy the physical comics. And yeah, every once in a while I don't have to work on a Wednesday, and I get to pick them up in person and take my time and chat with the folks that work at the store, and that is a blast. Let me pick away a little more at some drawing. Here, I'm going to back up a little bit there. I've been just sort of, you know what? This is not the only thing I draw. Yeah, it's late, I know. Yeah, hopefully, and you know what? If you didn't, I'm sure that they can still back order it. It's kind of fun. It's a little adventure. I think it still means something. I think that they're like giving it supreme effort creatively. Oh my God, I know what you mean. Like, yeah, the villains in this, like Bane and Joker, are just literal monsters. It's quite disturbing. So I've been sort of pecking away, like taking my time inking this on the show. Originally started shortly after I saw Badlands, which I really enjoyed. And now I'm, sorry, where did I put the pen that I wanted to use? There it is. But I have drawn other things. I just haven't been able to show you guys. I took a commission, and my friend wanted me to draw, like this is going to be a Christmas present of a friend of theirs, specifically as some sort of a specific warrior. And I don't know if I got it quite right. I feel like I think it's good. I did a couple versions of this because I was having trouble getting a likeness that I really felt like, because I don't know this person. This is my friend's friend, okay? So doing it as a commission, I took it very seriously, and I did some studies. And I was like, I had this sketch, and he was like, yeah, that's a pretty good likeness. You know, could you do more of an actiony pose? I was like, no question. So I did that, and he was like, yep, that's the one, like develop that. These are just on like regular paper, and I was like inking a little bit, so it shows up a little weird. And then I started, you know, on an actual Bristol board. And he was like, this is really good, Chris. He goes, the face doesn't quite look like her, because I'm showing updates along the way. And I go, no problem. I haven't gotten that far, despite what it looks like. I really haven't gotten that far. Let me redo it. And so I redid this as I showed him the pencils first, and he was like, yeah, no, you got it right this time. Please. And so I did develop it. I do feel that there's a little bit of the head, because I was focused on the likeness, not looking perfectly like it's attached to the body. And that bothers me a little, but it's very hard for me as somebody that doesn't do likenesses regularly to get both the likeness and, you know, have an interesting and dynamic pose. So I would say this was a big challenge for me as a non-professional artist. And overall, he seems happy, which is what makes me happy. And we'll see. We'll see. Thank you. I was trying to give it some personality when I did it. But thank you for the kindness. That I appreciate it. Yeah, and this might even be at a little bit of an angle. But anyway, so that's one thing I worked on outside of this. I'm always doodling every single day, and I don't get to show all of that. But I think I'll just peck away a little bit at this Predator for fun, just sort of practicing inking technique stuff. And we can chat about whatever else is going on. So I know I didn't upload an episode yet this weekend. I am pretty close on finishing an edit for the Comic Tropes Christmas episode, I'll call it. It's a little bit of a tricky thing this week, folks, because I'm reviewing or discussing anyway, sort of a review, sort of fun, a Japanese TV show, and I need to be very careful that it doesn't get copyright claimed. So I'm having to do a lot of little techniques, sometimes a frame hold, sometimes, you know, just changing the pacing to a clip, because I really do want to show you what I can, but I have to be very careful that I can actually upload and monetize it. So it's taking a little while to edit properly, but that's okay. That's okay. I am working on an episode. You're so kind. A bit of advice on capturing likeness. Oh, okay. You want to capture their appeal. You don't have to be accurate as long as you get their glow. I get what you mean there. And I don't think it's quite a literal likeness, but I had to do certain little things to try to make it look more like her. But you guys saw, I did basically 3 versions, and then on the 4th one, it looked good. For the face on this, I definitely was looking at reference because I don't know this person and I needed to make it look like her. And I think my first sort of light pencil sketches did capture it a little bit. And then when I tried to do it as like, you know, a finished product, I think I tried to focus too much on just making it a cool drawing. And I lost some of that likeness. But that's what I'm getting commissioned to do. It's my friend. And so, yeah. I probably will do a best of 2025, and I'm trying to decide what format that I want to do that in. I will do it best. I will do it best, actually. But I don't know whether I'm going to do it, say, like live, streamed here and on Comic Tropes, or edited. It feels weird to do a best of episode fully edited because I can either take way too long showing too many images, or you're just saying like, hey, here's my list. And this is like what it looks like, and this is why you should try it out. Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, I will do a 2025 list. It's a little tricky, but I've got a few too many to do top 10, and I want to narrow it down to 10. And then just sort of say, hey, here's also some honorable mentions. It's like, that's so arbitrary. But I do feel like I want to limit it to 10 because it forces me to think very carefully about what I liked or didn't like about something. You know, it forces me to really rank it. Not to say that it's anything definitive. All I can ultimately do is say this is what I liked and why. Oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? I should have drawn her as a predator. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take a quick moment here. I got some gachapon at the local, Asian grocery store. They've got a literal Bondi gachapon segment, and I got some, and I haven't opened them yet. I'm going to open it real quick, and we'll just see if it's anything cool or stupid. But they are all from Katamari Damacy. I don't know if you guys know Katamari Damacy. It is one of my favorite games of all time. I've played every single version. If you haven't played it, you play this little alien. They all sort of look like this. There's little different versions. And you roll things up in a ball. It's a sticky ball, but you can only roll up things that are a little smaller than it. Never bigger, I should say. And you get bigger and bigger. And you start by being in rooms where you're rolling up thumbtacks and coins and dominoes. And you can get to the point where you're rolling up entire continents. I don't know which cousin this is. I don't know their names well enough. So yeah, I don't know if I got I probably didn't get the prince, but I got a couple of the cousins. And that works for me because like I say, I love these games. I think that the music is super charming and campy and funny. That's a funny little looking one. And hey, now, I didn't even think of it, but you could sort of treat the capsule instead of trash. You could sort of treat it as it's boop, 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 as it's Katamari. A Katamari just means like a clump of stuff. So I don't know. I love those games. All right, so I got one. I'm gonna open 2 more, and then I'll just quickly do a little more inking. I'm glad a few of you guys know what this is because I do know this one. This is just because they're named after a literal thing. This is Ichigo, which is the Japanese word for strawberry. This is Ichigo. And that's basically what the prince looks like, except the prince, instead of having this sort of raspberry pattern, wears green. Almost like this kind of a green. But like this is the shape of the prince, the main character. This is so cool. Wait, an American-made comic book of it? I never have heard of that. Love Katamari. Soundtrack is magnificent. Totally agree. It's so catchy. It is funny. Not every single version is perfect for the game. I've got one on my phone that's the controls are very difficult. I don't care for that, but otherwise I really like it. I do know this cousin. This cousin is Miso, because its head is like a bowl of soup. Its head is like a bowl of soup. So that's funny. I don't know this one, but I do know that this is Ichigo and this one is Miso. But I did not luck out with the prince himself, but that's okay. I didn't get the prince, but I got Ichigo, I got Miso, and I got this weirdo. So that's kind of fun. Anyway, if you guys have access to Gachapon near you, maybe you can get some Katamari Damashi. Na, 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 na. That's how it goes. That's how one of the song goes. I love them. Love, love, love. Well, tomorrow I go to work and I got to give up the kitten. So after I wrap this up, I'm going to go see if I can get it to come say hello to me for a little bit more. And then tomorrow I'll put it in a carrier and take it to work, where I'm going to give it to one of my coworkers who I know will give it a really good home. I'm glad that I was able to help it. So that was a fun way to start the show, telling you guys about getting to rescue a cat. I feel good about it because I've been so depressed lately. But that made me feel really happy, saving like a little creature. I just went home, and guys, it was very scared and skittish, and it still is quite shy for now. But I can tell that it wants to connect with people because it talks a lot, and it wouldn't do that if it was trying to hide. It is just so chatty. I know that it wants to connect with people. So once it feels completely safe, I think it's going to be a wonderful family member. I think it's going to have a really good life. And I'm just glad I could save it because, like I say, it is flooding like crazy out here. I can't take the highway to work because it's shut down for like over a 6-mile stretch. It's doubled my commute time. It's so miserable. But you know what? At least my house and my family are safe, so it could definitely be worse. So I'm not really complaining. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, Washington's dealing with a lot of historic flooding. Oh, and today a levee broke in between where I live and where I work. So lots of flooding, unfortunately, quite bad. Some Googling tells me the third cousin is Huey. Oh, yeah, that does sound a little familiar as somebody that's played like all the games. Yeah, cousin Huey. I think that is right. It doesn't, not one that I know as well as the others, but yeah. I'm definitely, if I wasn't going to get the prince, I'm very happy to get Ichigo. That would probably be my second choice, and I'm very amused by Miso. Very silly. But yeah, so the kitten I know will eventually warm up to people because it could have just stayed quiet and not come out to see me. It would have been the easiest thing in the world. And did I have to it took over 30 minutes when I on the search when I finally was able to lure it to me, and it wiggled quite a bit at first. But I put it in a blanket for the drive home, which takes about 30 minutes, and I just held it in my arm, and turned up the heat because it had been out in the cold. As chatty and runny as it had been, running all over the place trying to hide, zonked right out. 30-minute drive. I just had this little baby, just could have been snoring. It was adorable. Is that called a burrito? You could call it a burrito. It made me feel so happy, and I needed that. I've been doing real bad this year in the month of December. I'm doing real bad. Not trying to bring anyone down, but I'm so stressed out about trying to get the right, presents for people and make sure that, it's a good holiday for my family. Tomorrow's Chrissy's birthday, and I hope I can do that. I have to work, so I feel a little guilty about that, but I worked on my own birthday, so I think she does understand. Well, I'll try to get her some good food, and hopefully it'll all work out. Yeah, it's just, I've been doing bad. I've been doing real bad, to be honest. But saving that cat and having it sleep in my arm, it just made me feel good. I've found, and this is a flaw, it's a character flaw, but I am happiest when I feel that I've made somebody else happy. If I get some nice comments on a video that I've uploaded, if I have a friend or a coworker or a family member just thank me sincerely for something, if I have an animal just relax and seem content, that is the stuff that makes me happiest. It's like I should be able to make myself happy independent of that. But I thrive on positive feedback from others. I don't know. It feels like a weakness to me. You shouldn't rely on that as much as I do. But it is what it is. And just sharing that it made me feel really good to be able to help this little creature, and I'm really happy to think that it's going to have a good home and a good life. It makes me very, very happy, and I need that right now. We need that now, all of us. We come to this place from magic. I don't know the exact words. I'm thinking of that weird AMC Theaters ad that's been playing for years with Nicole Kidman. Well, the reason I say it's a weakness is because I shouldn't need to please others at the expense of yourself. You can go too far with anything. And I do think that I have a people pleaser personality, and there are times where I'll work too hard to the point of stress or exhaustion because I know it's pleasing someone else. I don't want to let anyone down. The amount of stress that I know that it gives me if somebody is upset and I can't, I have too much of an instinct to just make somebody feel good and calm and relaxed. And it's not healthy. It's not. It's like, yeah, that sounds good on its surface, but it's not perfect. It's not good. I don't know. This has been really fun to draw because the Predator has so many different textures to his skin and his outfit, and the musculature is just not even very close to human when it comes to the face. I like a lot of times the internet YouTube show Corridor Crew, where they just talk about special effects. And this latest week had on a guest from Weta, the New Zealand special effects company, and they did talk a little bit about Predator Badlands and how you couldn't really map all the facial expressions to a human face. A lot of it was created from the ground up. So, yeah, it's closer to like an animator as compared to just adapting something that's there. I like it. I like it. Every once in a while, it starts to get too technical, and I'm like, you guys are speaking to other animators and graphic designers and stuff at this point, and I sort of get it, but you're not relaying it in layman's terms enough. Every once in a while, they can fall into that rabbit hole, but I think that they've got a pretty entertaining channel. I think it's funniest when they can find some bad special effects, but they don't do that a whole lot. They mostly talk about what they love. I heard about that James Cameron had the mandible idea. I heard that. I hope that that's true. But I believe it probably is, because James Cameron has always been an artist himself. If you've ever seen some of his movies, he's done some of the storyboards and some of the designs for characters. He's quite a good artist. Surprisingly good. I don't always expect that out of a movie director, to have like the skills to relay their visual ideas by hand. I think it's very cool when they do. Yeah. Who are some other really good artists? I think I've heard that Zack Snyder is a pretty good artist with pen and pencil. I'm trying to think that there's probably some other movie directors that are good at. Oh, well, Tim Burton draws, right? Tim Burton does maybe more of a cartoony type style, but he definitely draws. So there's another. Who else is a good artist, like with physical tools, that does movies? I'm trying to think. I'm a little stumped. If I thought that a couple would come to me, but no. If I remember correctly, Cameron did the background mats for Escape from New York? What? That would be stunning if that's true. I've never heard that. That maybe it's true. I don't know. Ridley Scott? I've never seen his art. I believe you. I just don't know if George Miller draws, but he hires artists to do complete storyboards. A lot of directors do, and I think that you end up with a better product when you have a very clear idea of what you want to do. I don't think that he always does all of them, but I know he does some of them as well as designs. I've seen some Zack Snyder art, and he can draw. Del Toro makes sketches of his monsters. Oh, I would like to look that up. That's an interesting question. Let me pause and take a look, because I'm kind of close to feeling like I'm done with what I can do with this piece. Right. What Came on 40 is saying is I've got a Patreon, comic tropes, obviously, and every month I do an exclusive lighter episode, but an episode exclusively for my patrons at the $2 and up level. And this month I gave them an option on 4 different Christmas-themed comics that I would be willing to discuss or analyze. The Silent Night of the Batman, X-Men 143, that's Kitty Pryde running through the mansion while a brood chases her. The Hellboy Christmas Underground book by Mike Mignola and I forget the guest artist. And Starman 27. And what's leading? Oh, by far, Hellboy, A Christmas Underground. Gary Gianni, that was the artist's name. Hellboy, by far Hellboy. So that one, it's got 2 days left to vote, but it looks very likely like Hellboy will win. Well, I'd be happy to talk about Hellboy some more. I've really only done it as one Comic Tropes episode, so it would be kind of fun to talk about him some more. Especially in the somewhat looser format that I do for the Patreon exclusive. But anyway, if that is of interest to you, for less than the cost of one comic a month, You could support this show and the Comic Tropes show by just, pledging $2 or $5, and you'd get an additional episode out of it. Brendan McCarthy wrote and storyboarded what eventually became Fury Road. Boy, is that a great movie. So good. Oh, yeah? Eminem wanted to be a comic book artist? You know what? I just thought of this. The director of Predator Badlands, Dan Trachtenberg, did study under a comic book artist for several years. He wanted to be a comic book artist. That didn't quite come together, and he pivoted to doing film because that was another way to represent his ideas visually that he felt he was, and he probably was, better at. But he's somebody that can draw. And, there was somebody else. Anthony Bourdain, famous chef, as well as a writer and a travelogue guy. He did end up making some comics, but he's always said that was his first sort of dream job, goal when he was growing up. Did Kevin Smith draw? I didn't know Kevin Smith drew. I need to remember exactly sort of what deck the Yautja from Predator Badlands is wearing up top for like his armor and stuff when the movie starts. I need to take another look at that because I penciled it in, but now it's been so long since I penciled it in that I don't really remember. And that's an example of me gonna need to look again at some reference. But that's okay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this came out. Is just sort of like most of these times when I'm drawing on the stream, I'm really inking, and it's to just sort of practice techniques, see if I can become good with feathering or hatching, or at least understanding where the dark and the light should go to make it look right. And I'm fairly happy with a lot of this. It's not perfect, but, I'm not a professional artist. And if I was going to be, that would have happened a long time ago. But I'm pretty happy with how this is going. I think that this looks kind of fun and interesting. If I can come up with a piece like this, if I finish this, I might consider like offering this for sale on one of the streams. Yeah, I know. I remember that it's a breastplate made from scraps because I sort of represented it here, but now I'm sort of forgetting exactly what I was laying out here. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. Has anybody seen any good movies lately? I have been very busy lately, and I have not gone to the movies for a while. I have not been able to go to the movies for a while. The only entertainment I've been able to watch lately is the show Pluribus on Apple. My friend Matt allowed me to join his family plan on Apple. So kind. And it's the only thing I've been watching, but Chrissy and I have been watching Pluribus. Great show. I think there's only one more episode, and then we'll probably binge Welcome to Derry, I think. I like the Daniel Craig movies too, especially, to be fair, Casino Royale and Skyfall. Those were the two strongest, easily. Yeah, I would consider myself semi-professional because I have had some published stuff, and I usually do like either a short story or something, or a cover maybe, or a pinup for something that gets published each year. It might be small press. Sometimes it might be a little bigger, like the time I did the Vampirella variant cover. But yeah, semi-professional probably defines me. That's cool. I think it's incredible. It's incredible. I like hearing that Welcome to Derry is very good. Oh, my friend John, that I did this for, invited me to go see Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I said, John, I would love to go out to the movies with you. I go, but I've got to make a choice. I go, I can either go to the movie with you or I can finish this commission. I don't have enough time to do both. And he was like, yeah. He goes, I do the commission. I go, okay, you know, I want to do both, but I just don't have enough time to do everything. And he understood, and that made me feel good that he understood. I guess I'll wrap it up here because I do still need to eat, and I would also want to edit the next comic tropes for everybody. I'm really trying to do at least 3 episodes a month, if not 4. And I also want to have just a little bit more time talking to the kitten before, you know, I give it away to its new forever home tomorrow. I love kitties so much. So I just want to have a little time with it. So anyway, that's the art for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Let's see. What's next week? 22. Okay, so next episode, maybe Santa will visit. We'll see. But you guys have helped make this show fantastic. And if you're watching this once it's archived and you get this far, would love to hear your thoughts on any of these news stories or the comics that I've discussed in the comments below. If you can remember to hit things like, subscribe, and that notification bell, that really helps. It spreads the word. And so does leaving a comment. So either one, I appreciate. I've had a wonderful evening tonight. Thank you, everybody. This has been a really fun evening for me. And I will see you next week. You will see me sooner because I will have a comic tropes up before then. Thanks, everybody. Keep reading comics. Bye.